Ouyang was in a daze. He was not smart to begin with, and faced with such a difficult situation he did not know what to do and said weakly, Zhou Xian, if he truly is a silver frost mount and we kill him, that is not good. Didn't you say you wanted to catch him? If we send him to the top he'll definitely be killed, Ouyang muttered. Who said anything about killing him? Zhou Xian was flabbergasted. In front of him was the suicide room and Bing could not help but reveal a smile. Tang Tian lived up to his expectations and successfully escaped from the suicide room. This further proved that Tang Tian had limitless potential. Those who could come out from the suicide room were all freaks. Zhou Xian patted Ouyang's shoulder and consoled him. If not for the Black Feather's mount salary, I would be too lazy to go. Anyways, I'm just hoping to eat and wait for death. Being a hero is too tiring. I'm such a lazy person, how can I do such a thankless thing? Zhou Xian, can you beat sixth brother Yi? Ouyang asked. Yi Zhaoji's ferocity and craziness caused Ouyang to be shocked. Ouyang and Zhou Xian were both former disciples of the Aries constellation, and were considered to have good roots in Aries constellation. The 12 ecliptic palaces, Honorable Martial Alliance and Onyx Soul were all powerhouses of the same level. For young disciples like them, they were naturally placed in the same circle. But when his footsteps reached the suicide room, he was stunned. Such a pity. Yun Jian was slightly regretful. I feel that for them to be able to block Yi Zhaogu is already very powerful. But Zhou Xian suddenly sat up, the weakness on his face disappeared, and what replaced it was congealed, and muttered to himself, I was wondering why Ling Su's spear techniques were so similar to Qiao Feng Constellation's martial techniques, so it's the Aries Spear of Stars. This was also one of the reasons why Aries constellation was weak in the past few years. Lian Yu's destruction of the Silver Frost Mount was extremely thorough. Not only did he destroy the Silver Frost Mount's inheritance, he also completely erased the Silver Frost Mount's spirit. He ambitiously created the Black Feather's spirit-subduing spear and the Black Feather's mount, but there were some things that were not easy to establish, for example tradition or spirit. The bronze star door opened, causing Bing's interest to soar. He never thought that Yi Zhaogu would be so powerful. Ouyang laughed. Zhou Xian, stop dreaming. Although your results are good, but you are so poor that you can't become a hero. There was no need to look at the suicide room. He had done a detailed check on Tang Tian before using it. There was definitely no problem, so he continued moving forward. I've checked, the fastest is the carriage from XN Dakar Company. It is said that their luxurious carriage, Wyvern, passes by Lupus constellation. Zhou Xian said. Who said that to be a hero you need money? Zhou Xian turned his head looking surprised. Yes, I am also curious. Ouyang Yang nodded his head. Aries constellation's influence had dropped sharply, and in this generation, Aries constellation was not as strong as Leo constellation or Sagittarius constellation, and could not be called the overlord. Every generation of the new Aries constellation was working hard, trying to restore the glory of the ancient Aries constellation, but sadly that day seemed to be far away. With the Bronze Star Door, the 07 Army Barracks functions could be completely utilized. Although many of the facilities were old and unusable, but with Sai Lei they could be completely restored. Yong Xianzhong is Teacher Bian's disciple. I think he has some standards. Yun Qian's beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. I never thought that Yi Zhaogu would be so powerful. Why don't elder sister pick Yi Zhaogu? He with Yi Zhaoji's standards he can definitely be bestowed as a saint. What exactly happened here? Lian Yu was completely destroyed, but the citizens of Aries constellation were still citizens of Aries constellation, and the legend of the Silver Frost Mounts was still passed down by the citizens. Ouyang Yang and Zhou Xian were very clear in the hearts of the citizens, the Silver Frost Mounts were more respected than the Black Feathers Mounts. Aries Spear of Stars? That name sounds familiar. Ouyang Yang subconsciously replied, but after a while he reacted. He was so shocked that he immediately jumped up and spoke incoherently. What did you say? Aries Spear of Stars? That's true. Yun Qian muttered. I can't imagine what kind of man can match up to elder sister. I heard that among the 10 geniuses of the Honorable Martial Alliance, there are many outstanding ones. Bing, who was filled with excitement, once again entered the Bronze Star Door and headed towards the 07 Army Barracks. Since he had decided to investigate this time, Bing took a look. He was very familiar with the place and the investigation was carried out very quickly, but the situation was not good. The damage to Unit 07 was rather severe. Seems like I have to spend a lot of time to repair it, but luckily I have Sai Lei, the outstanding mechanic engineer, by my side. But we need to be quick. Zhou Xian's eyes lit up. I am extremely curious about the Aries spear of stars of the Silver Frost Mounts. The Aries constellation's Silver Frost Mounts had been passed down from generation to generation, and its tradition and spirit had always supported Aries constellation. And after losing these things that could not be seen or touched, Aries constellation started to go downhill. Ouyang Yang had seen Yi Zhaogu before and knew of the nickname Sixth Brother Yi, but Ouyang Yang's gaze was mostly attracted to the Honorable Martial Alliance Zhou Xian, Zhang Minghe and the rest, and Yi Zhaoji's image in his mind was very vague. Both parties were mortal enemies. All right. If we can't find it, then we will go work. Ouyang Yang thought of an idea and revealed a happy smile. Towards the Silver Frost Mounts and towards the Aries Spear of Stars, the Aries constellation disciples were conflicted. That is so expensive. If we buy the train tickets, we will have no money. Ouyang Yang's face was filled with hesitation. Geniuses without foundations are like duckweed. They are unable to accomplish anything. Mingyu said indifferently, this time if not for the Empress interference, they would not even have a chance to live. And Yi Jiu is a deep and scheming person with a ruthless nature. He will definitely not give up just like that. If I am not wrong, Yi Jiu's next move is already prepared. Number 07 barracks was not a recruit barracks. It was a barracks that was completely built according to the standards of the front lines, with complete facilities inside, and its functions were on a completely different level compared to a recruit barracks. Although the establishment of the new Aries constellation had many dark aspects, but the Silver Frost Mounts had long turned to ashes, and the glory of the ancient Aries constellation could only be found in history. How is it? What did you find out from Yong Xianzhong? A young lady dressed in green laughed. Her appearance was not as breathtaking as Mingyu, but had the gentleness of a girl next door. She was Mingyu's cousin Yunjian. Wah wah wah. This crane is so powerful. No, I changed my mind. Zhou Yan's face revealed a rarely seen serious expression. I want to see exactly how powerful the Silver Frost Mounts are. I want to find out where he is stronger than our Black Feathers Mounts. This name was undoubtedly a taboo existence in Aries constellation. The higher-ups were extremely secretive about this history, but the Black Feathers Mounts had only been established for 300 years, and the glory of the Silver Frost Mounts had not completely faded from the hearts of the people. Ouyang's attention was once again attracted to the video and he was shocked. Where did this Jing Hao come from? So powerful. Mingyu then repeated Yong Xianzhong's words. It was truly filled with ridicule. A pity we were too late and did not see the big battle. Mingyu's eyes flashed with a faint look of regret. They were rushing towards Yi Zhaogu. Zhou Yan was still lying on the table and said weakly, we will only know after fighting. He opened his mouth wide, seeing the place where the suicide room was. Only the ruins remained. Bing's expression was as though he had seen a ghost. Ouyang and Zhou Yan could not refute. Even the Black Feathers Mounts maintained their silence on this point. In any era, the Silver Frost Mounts were the strongest steel mounts under the heavens. But the Black Feathers Mounts, when they were first established, they had won a few battles, but after that they holed up at home and did not have any more battles. He compared in his heart if he were to meet Yi Zhaogu, his chances of winning would be pitifully low. That's true. Ouyang revealed a simple and honest smile. Chapter 349. Not long later they arrived in front of a sand dune. The sand dune did not seem to have any abnormalities as it could be seen everywhere. Yaya looked suspiciously at the silly squirrel who was still in a daze. He raised his right hand and pointed at the sand dune in front of him. But his words stopped abruptly. Clan Elder Yi, what kind of brilliant idea did you get from that old man from the Yi family? An elder laughed and welcomed him, his face unable to conceal the ridicule. The only thing that made Yaya feel interesting was that the desert was big enough, and bringing along a group of little brothers, the feeling of running was very satisfying. Yijio looked at everyone with disdain and walked out of the courtyard with his head held high. An hour passed. Rumble rumble. The bronze mountain goat's eyes flashed and turned to run. The old man did not open his eyes and said indifferently, "You came to find me, something must have happened, speak." But the desert was already Tang Tian's territory. Who would dare to come here and cause trouble? And ever since they knew that Yaya was the master's pet, Yaya and the rest immediately became the tyrants of the desert. Seeing the large group of people coming over from afar, everyone gave way. Go. The old man closed his eyes again. It doesn't matter if you get injured. The old man sighed. This involves a past event. When Hou Yitian had not ascended to the position of the empress, she had tried her best to obstruct the marriage between Crane's father and her sister. Crane's father's untimely death was also related to Hou Yitian standing by the side and watching. The relationship between Crane's family and Hou Yitian was very stiff, and even the powerful empress was helpless. If you were to beat Crane up, not only will Hou Yitian not vent her anger on you, she will be happy. In the meditation room, an old man sat with his eyes closed. The air was filled with the faint smell of sandalwood. Yijiu then explained everything that had happened. An old voice came out from the meditation room. Come in. Yaya gave the order and all the mechanical beasts started to move. Ya. One soul core after another appeared in Yaya's mind. It licked its lips. Every one of them looked delicious. Thinking about all these years of suffering, Yijiu's tears flowed down silently. Another elder chimed in. Old Yi, your luck is really bad. You actually met such a dark horse. Did you not bid farewell recently? He could not wait to come out of the recruit barracks. He had already forgotten about how to deal with Yi Zhaogu a few days ago. He only wanted to find Ling Su and Crane to fight. He didn't pay any attention to them. He emerged from the pit of falling rocks, walking as he dissected his moves. Yijiu bowed respectfully and retreated from the tea room. Yijiu's face was filled with shock. He was stunned by his great-uncle's words. Crane was actually the Empress' only junior. His face revealed a look of hesitation and struggle, but after a moment he made a decision. The Yi clan is not the Yi clan of the past. If we suffer a setback this time, our vitality will be damaged and the hearts of the people will be scattered. How can we talk about the future? The expression on the old man's face did not change at all. Then what do you want to ask? Let Zhaogu come over, I will guide him for a month. The old man said calmly. The entire mechanical beast army rumbled and turned, heading towards the direction pointed by the bronze squirrel. Hey, isn't that clan elder Yi? How is it? How are your family's sixth brother Ye's injuries? One of the clan elders mocked. Yijiu then heaved a sigh of relief. He stood up, his body swayed. He had been kneeling for too long and his legs were already numb. He did not care about rubbing his knees. He pulled open the bamboo curtain and walked in. Suddenly, the bronze squirrel behind Yaya, ka, turned its extremely stupid rat face, sniffed, and its gem-like eyes suddenly lit up. It jumped to Yaya's side and pulled on Yaya. Seeing Yaya turn his head, it raised its small hand and pointed to the right side of the group. Why not find someone to fight? The old man did not say a word, as though he did not hear anything. Yijiu, who was kneeling on the ground, lowered his head and waited. Why are there no mechanisms? Why are there no mechanisms? What could be more suitable than mechanical beasts to scout the way? Yijiu clenched his teeth, lowered his head and said, Grandnephew does not care about these people, the only one I am worried about is the Empress. Yijiu's voice was sonorous but filled with sorrow. The current Yi family, other than me there is no one else. Among the younger generation only Zhaogu can be groomed, but this unfilial son is like a lone wolf, and does not care about worldly affairs. The Yi family is only relying on the shadow of the past. What grandnephew can do is bitterly hold on. If we lose, the Yi family will be weak and will be seen by the world. How can we protect our position? Yaya looked at the words for a long time but still did not recognize them. But looking around, other than sand there was only sand and not a single enemy figure could be seen. The spacious passageway was filled with echoes. After a long while, the old man then slowly opened his mouth. Don't worry, Empress, as long as you do not harm Crane's life, everything else is fine. Yijiu was so scared that his face turned white and only reacted after a while. He was extremely excited. It's my great-uncle. This thought immediately made him excited. Ling Su? Crane? It feels better to fight both of them together. But you have to think carefully. Hou Yitian does not have any heirs. The only junior is Crane, and he has the highest possibility of taking over the Sagittarius position. If you beat Crane up, she will naturally be happy. But if Crane truly takes over the position of Sagittarius Palace Lord, you will have made a huge enemy. The old man said calmly. Tang Tian forgot about the fight and immediately asked the bronze goat, Where's Yaya? Why did you come back alone? A dignified sacred saint galaxy drawing a house as a prison, binding oneself and withering away the matters inside, is not something you can imagine. The old man slowly opened his eyes. Unexpectedly, there were no traps along the way. Inside the cave was a perfectly straight passageway with no end in sight. Yaya's army walked inside, but it was not crowded at all. The passageway inside the cave was more than 60 m wide, and the height was 30 m. Tang Tian was startled. Gone. Yaya brought a large group of mechanical beasts whistling in the desert and whistling out. The last time it rushed over, the battle had already ended, and the murderous Yaya was not satisfied, so it brought its little brothers and ran into the desert to show off. Yaya became excited. I know you are all blaming me. Yaya was pleased. Yijio's face could not help but reveal a happy look. The empress who suddenly interfered was like a knife on his neck. He did not dare to take a risk, because he did not know what the empress' bottom line was. Seeing that, Tang Tian followed without saying a word. Ling Su, Crane and Homa Air followed. Tang Tian came out from the recruit barracks. His entire body was comfortable. Not only did he not feel tired, but he felt that his body was filled with endless energy. Without waving his fists or kicking his legs, it was as if his body was not relaxed. He wanted to let others see his methods, but his great-uncle's reminder was right for Tang Tian and the rest. To offend a successor like Crane was not worth it. But he needed to display his strength. His great-uncle's words were short, but they contained a lot of information. Nephew doesn't dare. Yijio could no longer hold it in and cried out loud. Without any warning, the elder's head in front of Yijio exploded like a watermelon. A few hundred mechanical beasts formed a torrent, and the sound of them advancing was rather terrifying. Yaya, who was somewhat resentful, decided to enter the cave to explore and was rather excited. The cave entrance was deep and bottomless and looked very mysterious. A light sigh came out from his head. Yijio turned a deaf ear. His face was calm, but the fists hidden in his sleeves were clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Passing through the long corridor, he came to the door of a meditation room. The door of the meditation room was hung with bamboo curtains, and without saying a word, he knelt at the door. Tilting his head and thinking for a while, Yaya sent the bronze mountain goat to report, and then Yaya let the mechanical beasts walk in front of the group. He only felt that life was beautiful. All the suppressed emotions were swept away. His body was extremely obedient, and using techniques was a type of enjoyment. As long as he could think of a technique in his mind, he could easily execute it with his hands. Yaya made a grand wish, and that was to run around the entire desert before Master comes out. Once Master comes out, he would definitely grab Yaya to go around. Thinking about that, Yaya immediately felt that time was pressing. Upon jumping out, he saw Ling Su, Crane and the rest. Crane's expression was solemn. Yaya is gone. Compared to the sand of time, the sand dunes in the desert did not require much effort. After an hour, the sand dunes had already disappeared, and at the bottom of the sand dunes, a gigantic cave entrance was revealed. It was a cave entrance made of gigantic rocks, and every gigantic rock was at least 30 m long. On the walls of the cave, words were written. It is not a human. Ling Su said straightforwardly. The wide and smooth tunnel led straight to the front. Rumble, 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 the mechanical beasts slowly walked into the cave. The mechanical beasts at the front of the group switched on their lights, and the inside of the cave became bright. Yijio was startled, and his face immediately revealed an uncontrollable ecstasy. Thank you, great-uncle. Thank you, great-uncle. As the saying goes, like master like pet, Yaya did not know what fear was. Its eyes lit up and looked around eagerly. Yijio raised his head and saw his great-uncle's eyes as though he was struck by lightning. It was the first time he saw his great-uncle's eyes, which were a pair of glass-like golden snake pupils. He knew that this matter would spread like the wind and spread throughout the entire Honorable Martial Alliance. He did not know what happened that year, but he knew that with his great-uncle taking action, the Yi family's originally unstable situation would immediately stabilize. And those people who originally wanted to hit them when they were down, would definitely keep quiet out of fear. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Even if you get injured, it won't be a problem? Yijio probed. Yaya, who was standing on the bronze goat's horn, pointed forward. Yaya felt wronged. Yaya's swallowing light steel fist. Could it only be used to punch, punch, punch? Only it came back. Crane pointed to the bronze goat. Would there be treasures inside? The other clan elders also reacted. Their faces were pale white, They stood rooted to the ground, not daring to move, afraid that they would invite a disaster upon themselves. And the few clan elders who mocked Yijio previously were trembling like sieves, their faces as white as paper. I can't stop. Greet? Who does he greet? Who does the great clan elder Yi need to greet? Don't look down on our clan elder Yi. He thought for a moment and had an idea. He had already forgotten why he entered the pit of falling rocks. The Yi family's crisis was resolved, but Yijio did not want to stop. Chapter 350. His heart was burning with passion. He finally realized that his previous understanding was wrong. It did not matter if Xiaogu was alone or not. As long as he stepped into the sacred Saint Galaxy, he would become the Yi family's protective talisman. Xiaogu did not even need to make a move. As long as he existed, it would intimidate the enemy. Bang! Tang Tian awoke from his dream and immediately apologized. Sorry, my reaction was too fast. It was the first time Yijio felt that the sacred Saint Galaxy was so powerful. Suddenly, a gray shadow flashed in front of him. In the eyes of ordinary people, the Yi family's power was immediately magnified. To be able to make so many constellations close their starry doors, the Yi family's power was terrifying. Everyone's eyes were burning with anger, especially Hua Air. She shouted, "He wants to trap us to death." No one cared about it. Great Uncle used this method to remind the honorable martial group that he was not dead. Yaya's entire body was covered in dirt and was in a sorry state. Upon seeing Tang Tian, his eyes lit up. He howled and jumped with all his might, opening his arms in the air and pouncing towards Tang Tian. Truly grand! Huma Air exclaimed. She was born and raised in Lupus constellation, but had never heard of the Seasons Field Waterway before. Where does this Seasons Field Waterway lead to? Seasons Field Waterway, one of the ancient famous waterways that connected the southern sky and northern sky. It appeared roughly 5,000 years ago and was once extremely popular. It was hailed as that flowing energy waterway, but it is actually a constellation's dark river. Saint Seasons Field discovered and explored this waterway, thus it is named Seasons Field Waterway. Its position changes every 500 years, because it connects the southern sky constellations and northern sky constellations, thus it is called the South-North Secret Bridge. The originally silent Yi family was completely revived by Yijio's actions. Tang Tian's face was filled with fake concern. He ran to the stone wall and pulled Yaya down. His fingers held onto Yaya's calf and shook it. Luckily he was not injured. Oh, it's just that there's a lot of dust. He casually picked up Yaya and smacked the stone wall a few times, as though he was holding onto a broom that was covered in dust. Everyone had not dispersed yet. A terrible news made everyone's face extremely black. It would be best to lure Yi Zhaogu over. Crane said coldly, "We will ambush him." What is this? Tang Tian's jaw dropped as he stared at the huge cave in front of him in a daze. That means this route leads to Northern Sky's 19 continents? Crane thought. A ferocious side kick hit Yaya precisely like a knife. Tang Tian saw that everyone was stunned by him and said proudly, "Besides, don't we still have the Seasons Field Waterway?" Since it was connected to the Northern Sky constellation, then the other side must be a Northern Sky constellation. What do you guys think? Yiju will definitely brag about the results of banning us in the end when we swagger in Northern Sky. Will he be scared silly? I'm really looking forward to his expression. Yaya, who was swaying, slowly woke up. Hearing that Tang Tian and the rest were discussing about fighting, his blood started to boil. He waved his two small fists and said in a childish voice, "Yeah. I'll go and find out who did it." Bing said and disappeared. Tang Tian knew that Bing went to find Belle. "Let Tang Yi station here." Bing's voice came out. Crane shook his head. "I'm not sure. I don't remember where I saw it." "It's the ancient waterway." Tang Tian's face lit up. Everyone else became interested and looked around curiously. Ling Su glanced at the mechanical beasts and exclaimed, "Is there any danger ahead?" Bing's suggestion received the approval of everyone, for places like ruins usually meant wealth, and no matter how generous a person was, they would not hand it over to others. Yijio was extremely satisfied in this period of time, and did not look like he was defeated in the slightest. He could feel the reverence and jealousy in the gazes of the other clan elders. The current Yi family had swept away their previous decline, and the atmosphere had changed. Tang Tian pretended to advise sincerely, and Yaya's eyes were filled with stars. Among the dust, Yaya was smashed into a flat meat patty, his expression sluggish. Ling Su secretly decided he must become stronger, and at that time he would stab that old man from the sacred domain to death. After the commotion, Tang Tian also forgot about finding Ling Su to fight with Crane. And it was a famous waterway in history, who knows what treasures might be inside. And all of this was just a single move from his great-uncle. The star door of Delphinus constellation is closed. Other than the star door to Corvus constellation, all the other star doors of the constellations are closed, and the star door of Corvus constellation is also closed. The other party did not give us any warnings or reminders, and we did not hear any other news. Homa Air's voice was trembling. She could not imagine to be able to close so many star doors, how much power was needed. No one would have thought that the Yi family actually had a sacred domain. Was that the power of an aristocratic family? Crane's sharp eyes moved closer to the stone wall, and after identifying the words for a long time he said, "This is an ancient waterway called the Seasons Field Waterway. I have heard of this waterway before, but never did I expect it to be here. Wait for Jing Hao to come out, then everyone can go in and take a look." Crane suddenly said. "What is the meaning of the flowing energy waterway?" Ling Su asked the question he was interested in. The mechanical beasts looked sparse, and many of the mechanical beasts had scars on their bodies, which was a ghastly sight. Ling Su remembered that Yaya's mechanical beast army had 200 to 300 beasts, and now there were only 60 to 70 left. Could it be that there was danger inside? Everyone was shocked by the sudden movement, only to see Tang Tian smacking his head, with a face of annoyance. I forgot I have the star map. I heard that it was created by a grandmaster, let me check." "What a big move." Crane said, "The opponent wants to trap us here. No matter what, I must definitely let Zhao Gu step into the sacred domain." These 4 words seemed to have a nightmarish magic that pressed heavily on everyone's hearts. Bing sighed. Being stupid was not without its merits. Cough, next time when you do something dangerous, don't do it alone. He did not know what kind of terrifying enemy the Yi family had provoked. A lot of energy? Tang Tian was unsure. Yijio secretly decided. Let's get rid of him while we're at it. Ling Su licked his lips, his eyes filled with killing intent. Tang Tian said word by word. "He is just giving us a taste of his power." Crane understood the style of the aristocratic families and said, "He wants to use us to establish his might, but he has misgivings, so using his power to suppress us is the best way. The Yi family has a sacred domain. We are in big trouble. The deterrence of a sacred domain martial artist is not something that the constellations in northern sky can go against." Big Brother Jing Hao's injuries were the heaviest, and he had not come out yet. Big Brother Jing Hao actually disobeyed his teacher's orders and risked his life to help them. Tang Tian was extremely touched. Not long later, Bing rushed back with a gloomy face. It was done by Yijio. A sacred domain old man from the Yi family suddenly appeared and killed an elder of the Honorable Martial Alliance who mocked the Yi family. The direction of the Honorable Martial Alliance suddenly changed, and all the big families are supporting the Yi family. Yijio sent letters to the leaders of the various constellations, requesting them to close the star door to Lupus constellation. Ling Su and Crane's eyes twitched so fast. They only reacted when Yaya crashed into the stone wall. Since when did this guy's moves become so fast? He was busy with all sorts of matters and came over. Seeing the ancient waterway in front of him, he was shocked. Everyone's gloomy expression. Tang Tian's face was extremely eye-catching. "So what if he's a sacred domain? Does he have 4 legs?" "Relax. A sacred domain martial artist can earn a few million star coins a minute. Why would he waste his time on us small characters? We can't beat a sacred domain martial artist, but if Yijio thinks that he can make us lower our heads and let him show off, he's wrong." As for Tang Tian and the rest, they had long been thrown to the back of his head. To him, the matter was already over. Crane started to think calmly. A sacred domain martial artist should not be so vulgar, and there should not be many people like Tang Tian who liked star coins. Not to kill or injure, but to trap. That's what the book says. Tang Tian pointed to the star map. A sacred domain martial artist. Humph, this group of despicable people, sooner or later I will stab them to death. Ling Su's face was filled with killing intent. The two of them looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. This pervert seemed to have become stronger. Everyone's heart palpitated. Yaya's body was embedded into the stone wall at the side, the expression on its face frozen. Lupus constellation originally had very few starry doors connecting to other constellations, and now that the starry doors were sealed, Lupus constellation became a cage. Tang Tian took out the star map to search, and after a while he excitedly said, "Found it." In a single night, Yijiu became extremely popular, and the Yi residence became even more crowded. And after he made a move, it caused his reputation to soar. In the eyes of the higher-ups, the matter involved the Empress, and even they felt that it was difficult, but Yijiu's way of handling it made the Empress unable to interfere. His nimble methods caused Yijiu's impression in the eyes of the higher-ups to rise, and if nothing unexpected happened by the end of the year, he would be able to rise another level. If he were to rise another level, it would mean that he would officially leave the middle-tier clan elder position and step into the upper echelons. At that time, with the support of his great-uncle, he had the confidence to bring the Yi family back to its peak. Very quickly, a large group appeared in everyone's vision, and the one at the front was Yaya. Just as everyone was discussing, rumbling sounds came out from the depths of the cave, as though a large group was approaching them. Everyone stopped their discussions and turned their heads. Ling Su did not say anything towards Jing Hao. He was still extremely respectful. Tang Tian also nodded his head, "All right." Everyone's gaze landed on Tang Tian, and the expressions on their faces loosened up. Thinking about it, they felt that Tang Tian's words were crude, but his logic was crude. Would the Sacred Saint Galaxy have the time to care about them? Ling Su was eager to try. The more dangerous the matter, the more interested he was. "Good idea." Tang Tian's eyes lit up. "Let's surround him again. We must definitely get rid of Yi Xiaogu." Chapter 351. Don't be so long-winded, quickly tell me how to go over. Ling Su said impatiently. Teacher must be very disappointed. The second half of the sentence, Jing Hao's tone was solemn. Tang Tian knew for a person like Big Brother Jing Hao who kept his promises, to say such words, it meant that he would definitely not take a step back. But there were even more ambitious people who were eager to try. Heaven's road had been peaceful for too long. Tang Tian was barehanded. Wah wah wah, I am number one. His movements were so fast that it was hard for the naked eye to catch. I am not smart and do not know how to be flexible, stubborn and inflexible. This is probably my lack of talent. But this is me, this is my morality, no matter how stupid it is. The Lupus race were hardworking, persevering and obedient, so there were many wandering bandits. In fact, they were good candidates for an army, but Bing did not like them. The reason was simple: the Lupus race were too weak. When Tang Tian threw 100,000 awakening medicine to Tang Yi and told him that there were still 900,000, Tang Yi did not bow. He did not know what to say. Tang Tian pretended to pat Tang Yi and told him to do his best and not to lose face for this godlike young man, then swaggered off. One of the Leo constellation's businesses had a conflict with an elder of the Honorable Martial Alliance, who knew that the elder of the Honorable Martial Alliance would actually sneak into Leo constellation alone and kill the president's family. Bing had asked Old Man Fei before for an 80% completion rate. Heavenly Martial Werewolf Blood Meridian, 300 to 500 million was a good price. If it was 90% completion rate, 5 billion was the lowest price. Old Man Fei and the rest were very efficient. To them, this grade of medicine was easy. The rich and overbearing Tang Tian in one breath threw a huge order to Old Man Fei, a total of 2 billion ancient Lupus race Blood Meridian awakening medicine. Old Man Fei was ecstatic. He had just recruited a large group of old friends, and did not expect them to be of use. But no one expected that the battle would come so quickly, and thinking about it, it was to be expected. Bing told Tang Yi that everyone had to submit a blood sample to receive a medicine, and asked Huma Air to assist Tang Yi. Bing knew more than Tang Tian. The efficiency of letting Tang Tian recruit 1 million people was definitely not as fast as letting him lead an army to kill 1 million people. In front of them, bright balls of light floated in the wide passageway like a blue ocean. This was the striding stab. He truly cared about Big Brother Jing Hao. Tang Tian and the rest did not have many people participating in this operation, only Tang Tian, Ling Su, Crane, Oh and Yaya and its little friends. The main thing was that it was still unclear what the situation of this ancient waterway was. Jing Hao stared blankly at Tang Tian and the others as they left. In fact, he also knew what the elders were thinking. However, he knew his own limitations. His talent in martial skills far surpassed his talent in leadership. He had already pushed open the door and was about to step into the wider world. Every ball of light was a ball of pure energy. They were like balls of spirits floating in the air, gathering and dispersing. You will know in a while. Crane did not plan to reveal the secret and took out an ordinary steel sword. Tang Tian opened his mouth wide, pointing with a face of astonishment. Are we going to destroy all the balls of light? Under Bing's command, at the entrance of the waterway, a large bronze base was built. Of course, it could not be compared to 3 Spirit Cities' bronze base, but it was enough to be used as the encampment of the Lupus army. The poverty of Lupus Constellation could be seen. Just to gather the bronze required a lot of effort. Didn't you think that they were weak and were cannon fodder? As expected of the river of energy. Crane exclaimed in admiration, I have never seen a place with such dense energy. All these balls of energy are formed from energy and are extremely dangerous. All of this did not affect Tang Tian much. He was a tyrant. Following the closer relationship with the Mo family, the more profits he would reap. Seasons Fields Waterway. Since Tang Tian had such a wish, then he would help him. Tang Tian and the rest had already arrived at the place where Yaya had previously arrived. Seeing the mess and the mechanical beast's wreckage, everyone's faces congealed. Yaya had lost 2/3 of his mechanical beasts the last time. Crane reminded, we have to disperse all these balls of energy. Do not use true power and only use pure strength. Jing Hao looked at Tang Tian and said apologetically, I will need around 3 months to fully recover, so I cannot accompany you to the Seasons Fields Waterway. Be careful. But don't worry about Lupus Constellation. As long as I am still breathing, I will definitely not let it land in the hands of others. Crane was like a big black crane. His body was extremely agile. The steel sword in his hand was like a flexible bamboo, his exquisite hand movements following his wrist, sprinkling out. The steel sword in a small area was extremely fast as lightning. 2,000 star coins for 1 portion. 2 billion was a full 1 million portions. The Blood Meridian specialists that were just recruited were completely stunned by Tang Tian's generosity. Many people were filled with worry. If the war were to erupt, it would most likely become a war that would affect the entire Heaven's Road. At that time, maybe no one would be able to escape. Currently, Lupus Constellation was in Tang Tian's hands, and the Awakening Blood Spring was naturally no exception. With the Awakening Blood Spring, 1 portion of the Awakening Medicine only required 2,000 star coins, and at that time Old Man Fei quoted 5,000 star coins as the selling price. 1,000,000 portions of Awakening Medicine, that was 1,000,000 people, and there would definitely be a few outstanding talents. Picking 500 out of 1,000,000 people, 5 out of 10,000, 5 out of 10,000, I don't believe that I can't pick out a good soldier. Seeing that, Ling Su also took out an ordinary steel spear. In Heaven's Road, no one cared about the sealed Lupus Constellation. Even Yi Jiu's generosity was ignored by everyone. At that moment, the entire Heaven's Road's attention was attracted to another matter. Then I will have to trouble Big Brother Jing Hao. Tang Tian grinned, revealing his snow-white teeth. Although Big Brother Jing Hao's face was pale, but his spirit was not dispirited at all. The defeat did not make Big Brother Jing Hao lose his confidence, and that made Tang Tian the happiest. The battle with Yi Zhaogu had consumed much less than what Tang Tian had expected. Tang Tian currently had over 10 billion star coins in his hands. With Big Brother Jing Hao holding the fort, adding a Maori Han Bingning and the rest, Tang Tian's Lupus army and the safety of Lupus Constellation, Tang Tian was not worried at all. As for the blood samples, Bing had always been thinking about the Heavenly Martial Werewolf Blood Meridian. Old Man Fei had said before, with 30,000 blood samples, he could obtain an 80% completion rate of the Heavenly Martial Werewolf Blood Meridian. 1,000,000 blood samples, at least 90% completion rate. Let's begin. Before Crane finished speaking, his figure disappeared. They completely did not know that the matter originated from Tang Tian. From what Bing said, Tang Yi wished to lead the Lupus army. Tang Tian was extremely touched. Tang Yi could not let go of the Lupus army. That was a loyal and affectionate person. Tang Yi had risked his life to save him a few times, and Tang Tian remembered it in his heart. The taciturn but meticulous Tang Yi, in other people's eyes, was just a spirit general, but in Tang Tian's eyes he was his comrade. Tang Tian pulled away from the two of them by half a body's length, and was the first to rush in. Pa pa pa, a series of explosions sounded out, and the blue balls of light around him exploded at the same time, transforming into a blue mist. This vicious incident caused a huge uproar in Leo constellation, and Lion King Leong was enraged and ordered the Honorable Martial Alliance to hand over the culprit within 3 days. Not only did they not lose, they could even earn a huge sum, and Bing was extremely pleased. But out of the 3 of them, the fastest was Tang Tian. His fighting style was even more unique. Just as Tang Tian left, Bing snuck over. Jing Hao did not say a word and walked towards the quiet room. Thinking about the battle with Yi Zhaogu, his chest seemed to have a blazing flame, his entire body filled with fighting spirit. Every step he took, the rain of spears would bloom once, and the light wall in front of him would crumble. Huma Er was also shocked by Tang Tian's generosity, but she was even more excited. She was very clear what a million awakening medicine meant to the lupus race. It looks like an energy crack. Tang Tian stretched his neck with all his might, wanting to see further. Benefits. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. The sword moved with him like a crane dancing, extremely agile. Without a trace of true power, the taste of the heavenly crane sword principle was still reflected in the sword techniques, vividly and vividly. Lupus constellation being sealed actually did not affect the citizens as much as they thought. Since the start, Lupus constellation had very little contact with the outside world, and only a few places had merchants arriving. The local citizens were long used to such a life, and their dependence on the outside world was very small. He raised his head, the bewilderment and disappointment in his eyes swept away, his tightly pursed lips, revealing a rock-like unswerving determination. The powerful Ling Su snorted, the spear in his hand trembled, and the light regiment in front of him crumbled like a wall. He could now stab out 200 times in a second. Without using true power, he could easily stab out 100 times in a second, and the 100 light regiments exploded. It was extremely spectacular. The Honorable Martial Alliance maintained their silence. Jing Hao's heart was slightly disappointed, but very quickly his gaze became firm. The breakthrough in his realm made his state of mind even more tenacious. In a short period of time, they had completed 100,000 sets of medicine. His mind was filled with the details of the battle. That's right. Crane explained, if they explode, we will not even have our bones left. After we destroy them, there will be no danger, and instead there will be some benefits. The 2 overlords would definitely have a battle. The unyielding and warlike Lion King began to mobilize his army without hesitation. In a night, the situation became so tense that it was suffocating. Everyone knew that the battle was unavoidable. The friction between the 2 overlords continued. The ambitious Lion King, who was in his prime, could no longer endure the endless infiltration of the Honorable Martial Alliance. The powerful Lion King was also hated by the tyrannical Honorable Martial Alliance. What made them even more disgusted was that the Lion King continued to influence the other constellations, whether openly or secretly. They rejected the Honorable Martial Alliance. This had already touched on the foundation of the Honorable Martial Alliance. When Huma Er announced the 1 million blood meridians awakening medicine plan, the entire Lupus constellation went crazy. One was the #1 powerhouse in Heaven's Road, the other was the strongest constellation. The confrontation between the 2 overlords cast a shadow that enveloped the entire Heaven's Road. Tang Tian was extremely disdainful of Bing's snobbishness. The ball of light in front of him stretched as far as the eye could see, resembling a blue river. I was prepared for this. Ling Su snorted. He and Crane were neck and neck. Chapter 352. The heavenly crane lantern had also changed its appearance. The immortal crane's entire body was snow white, only its eyes were blood red. Tang Tian was curious. It can absorb energy. Adding Tang Tian's attack speed that was not slow, the efficiency was naturally astonishing. His movements became more and more smooth, and he gradually understood. Needless to say, Ling Su's pointed sea spears with one move, it was a rain of spears. Crane's steel sword was also extremely fast. The sword moved with him, but every sword was extremely small, like a crane's beak hunting for food, fast as lightning. That was why Tang Tian's attacks looked so unique. If his steps were to stagger, Tang Tian would look like a drunk man. His route of advance was completely without any pattern, sometimes left, sometimes right, sometimes strolling, sometimes rolling and crawling. It was completely unfathomable. To the 2 of them, the hardest thing to improve was true power. Even though Tang Tian currently had the training clothes made by Sai Lei according to the ancient energy room, but the speed of training true power was still not enough to satisfy the two of them. One must know the consumption of star rocks by the training clothes was extremely terrifying. If not for Tang Tian being a small tyrant, he would not even be able to afford the training clothes. Crane explained, "It is called the Heavenly Crane Lantern, a silver star treasure of the Heavenly Crane constellation. My father used it when he was young, so the sect leader left it for me. Its use is simple. It is able to absorb energy, and it is said that if there is enough energy, it can condense into a crane crystal pill. But I have never seen it before. It is said that the Heavenly Crane constellation in the past could condense a crane crystal pill in 5 years, but the current Heavenly Crane constellation has been in decline for too long, and the energy is too thin." Yes. Crane could not help but reveal a smile. "But its greatest benefit is that it can help you train true power." He did not stop, not even for a moment. His attacks were as smooth as flowing water in one breath. His movements were very simple, without the slightest bit of flashy or dazzling, and there were also many unconventional movements. It was as though he had long understood the distribution of every light regiment. Every movement was continuous and unknowingly shortened the time. Crane's smile froze on his face. He forced a smile. "Aha, that's right, that's right." Ling Su and Tang Tian also took one each. The poor squirrel had been shaken by Yaya like a small boat in a storm. It had a blank look on its face, unable to understand the situation. "Then what's a person who loses to an idiot?" Tang Tian grinned. "It's called being worse than an idiot." "How about the exercise suit?" Tang Tian quickly asked. After an unknown period of time, the front suddenly became clear, and Tang Tian immediately broke away from the wonderful state he had just been in. He looked back blankly. Behind him there was a straight tunnel. Compared to the other two, Tang Tian was not inferior. His moves were extremely fast and his changes were also extremely fast, but in terms of attacking compared to Ling Su and Crane, he did not have much of an advantage. Crane's sword techniques had already reached a higher level, and was gradually becoming stronger. Among the few of them he was not eye-catching because he was quiet and did not like to fight, and under the cover of Tang Tian and Ling Su who loved to fight, he was slightly dim. But there were only 3 people who left wounds on his body. One was Tang Tian, one was Bing, and the last was Crane. A place with dense energy was a truly scarce resource. He had already dug through the entire tunnel, and not a single light regiment could be seen in the entire tunnel, as it was all misty blue light. Crane took out a silver immortal crane lantern. The lantern was shaped like an immortal crane and was extremely lifelike. Ling Su was eager to win. With his heart set on winning, he used all his strength and did not care about anything else. Energy was the source of true power, and true power was the foundation and core of martial techniques. Ling Su was enraged. He jumped up and pointed his spear straight at Tang Tian. "Come, if you are a man, then let's fight to our heart's content." It is said that it can be consumed directly. Crane was not sure. "I have never used it before, so it is hard to say. I saw that the energy here is so dense, and if I do not use it, it would be a pity. Luckily it is the Seasons Fields waterway. If not, this Heavenly Crane lantern would forever be covered in dust." But he still rushed to the front. The feeling of excitement and the feeling of calmness were truly two different things. The feeling of excitement was more about the control of the body, while the feeling of calmness was more about the insight of the environment. The 3 of them looked at each other and threw the crane crystal pellet into their mouths at the same time. Why were the northern sky constellations stronger than the southern sky constellations? Why were the polar constellations stronger than the northern sky constellations? Why were the strong martial artists willing to go to the higher level constellations? Why were the axes of heaven's road the 12 ecliptic palaces? Crane cut in at the right time. "Oh, you guys can fight a few more rounds. There is still time. The Heavenly Crane lantern still needs a period of time." Suddenly, a clear crane cry sounded out in the hearts of the 3 of them. Ling Su, who had long been waiting for a counterattack, snorted with a face full of ridicule. "Idiot, such a simple thing, who wouldn't be able to see it?" Tang Tian was still reminiscing about the feeling just now. The light beside him suddenly exploded and Ling Su came out from the blue light. Tang Tian reacted. He put his hands on his waist and laughed out loud. "Ha! Ling Su, I won. One for each of us." Crane did not speak any nonsense and extended his hand out to take one. Hearing Crane's words, Tang Tian felt that it would be stupid to fight. All right, Ling Su would not be able to see that. People with bad brains truly make people helpless. This godlike young lad should just give in to him. Crane was also done and laughed. Seems like I am the last. Can the crane crystal pellet be eaten? Tang Tian immediately started drooling. Time slowly passed. When Tang Tian opened his eyes, Crane and Ling Su were anxiously looking at the heavenly crane lantern. Crane was surprised. The three of them were extremely fast in their attacks. Suddenly a blue light surged towards the red-crowned crane lantern, and flew into the crane's mouth. The blue light was continuously sucked into the red-crowned crane lantern's mouth, but compared to the blue light in the entire passage, it was just a little. Tang Tian was immersed in the miraculous state. But Tang Tian did not have the time difference. The three of them were completely attracted to the crane crystal pellet in front of them. The crane crystal pellet released an energy undulation that caused people's hearts to palpitate. It was obviously not strong, but it seemed to have a throbbing feeling in their hearts. Normally, there would be a time difference between capturing and attacking. And the experts would usually compress the time difference to the extreme, and those experts who were known for their reactions would make it hard for people to notice the time difference. When Ling Su stepped out from the blue light, he saw Tang Tian, and his face immediately became extremely ugly. Hearing Tang Tian's proud boasting, his face became as black as the bottom of a pot. In the end, the battle did not happen. The three of them trembled. In Heaven's Road, the treasures that could help in training true power were all in the hands of the big powerhouses. Alright, it was still the beast-like intuition that suited this crazy young man. Crane's heart was even more surprised. He was naturally calm, and always had some suspicions towards intuition. But for intuition to be so strong, he felt that it was scary. He had integrated his enlightenment towards the wind, into the heavenly crane sword principle. The speed of his sword was rarely matched by martial artists of the same level. If not for the fact that Ling Su trained in the pointed sea spear, which purely relied on speed, he would not be Crane's opponent. Tang Tian and Ling Su's eyes were wide open. The two of them did not blink. Tang Tian did not know that Crane was secretly observing him. He was immersed in his excited state. The astonishing intuition caused his body to instinctively react. It was a strange feeling. He felt that his body was unprecedentedly powerful, unprecedentedly soft, unprecedentedly obedient. He could almost do any high-difficulty movement as he wished. Star treasure. The red-crowned crane opened its mouth and spat out 3 soybean-sized sparkling and translucent pearls. The luster on the red-crowned crane's body quickly disappeared, and with a speed visible to the naked eye, it once again became a dim silver eagle, just like when it was first taken out. The most fundamental reason was energy. But it was truly a strong intuition. If one had the heart, then it would be like playing chess. Playing chess required intelligence, and with Tang Tian's intelligence. Tang Tian swaggered for a while, then remembered what Crane said and immediately asked, "Little Crane, didn't you say there was a surprise?" With the attraction of the crane crystal pellet, Ling Su and Tang Tian were finally at peace, the two of them eagerly looking at the heavenly crane lantern. On the back of the bronze mountain goat, Yaya stood at the side with his hands on his waist, his chest puffed out, his face full of pride. He turned his head and saw the bronze squirrel's sluggish face. Yaya jumped to the squirrel's side, grabbed the squirrel's tail and shook it with all his might, helping Tang Tian to cheer him on. The energy in the northern sky constellations was much denser than the southern sky constellations. In the denser energy constellations, the speed of training was faster and martial artists could become stronger. As long as a strong martial artist had some ambition, they would be willing to go to a higher level constellation, to be able to improve even faster. Although Ling Su's face was black, but the corner of his eyes could not help but glance over, he was extremely curious about Crane's surprise. Crane was not one to brag. "Yes." Crane laughed. "But don't hold too much hope, this thing has been with me for so many years, but I have never seen it produce a crane crystal pellet before. It was written in the sex records and my mother said that it did condense in the past, so I brought it with me." Tang Tian's sympathetic gaze almost caused Ling Su to go berserk again. Crane thought for a while and understood it was intuition. Tang Tian immediately turned his head and jumped in fright. The blue light in the passage had become extremely thin. If it was previously a dense blue mist, now it was as thin as a veil, and he could even see the other end of the passage. But Crane could see it clearly. Tang Tian's attack method immediately attracted him. It was Crane's first time witnessing such a weird battle. Tang Tian would sometimes miss a few balls of light, but Tang Tian would definitely use a weird movement and eliminate those that slipped through the net. He could not tell whether Tang Tian was doing it intentionally or not. Tang Tian went to Crane's side and asked curiously, "Crane, what is this? I've never seen you take it out before." After watching for a while, the three of them felt bored and simply sat down to meditate. Training true power. Ling Su and Tang Tian exclaimed at the same time. Little Crane. Crane's eyes suddenly lit up, the dark red light aura as though it had suddenly come alive. What an unreasonable and valiant kind of strength. Chapter 353. Please don't. This godlike young lad, I finally have a chance to be saved by others. If you die like that, how can you be worthy of this chance bestowed by the heavens? Tang Tian was ecstatic. He was truly a genius. His tone suddenly changed and said, Tang Tian, are you afraid of death? It was truly too complicated. According to the sword technique, if Tang Tian wanted to summon the void dark flames, he would first need to summon the Saint Sword Ocean Prison. And the method to summon the Saint Sword Ocean Prison was extremely complicated. Without training for a long period of time, it was impossible to succeed. Sweeping a glance at the methods, Tang Tian's scalp went numb. The laughter was filled with astonishing power as though it wanted to pierce through the void. Tang Tian suddenly reacted and his face changed. He clenched his teeth and shouted at the top of his lungs, Ocean Prison! Ocean Prison! Quickly come out! Ocean Prison! Tang Tian's meridians were instantly stuffed to the brim. He felt as though his meridians were about to burst, and his body was about to explode. The amount of energy contained in the crane crystal pellet was too large. It frantically flowed along his meridians, rushing towards his dantian. The three different powers clashed, causing him to lose control of his qi, blood and spirit for a short period of time. When he regained his senses, the surging energy had already completely suppressed the two powers. Tang Tian felt a surge of anger rushing to his head. He started to think of a way to counterattack. Even if he was being suppressed by the energy, it made him feel extremely unhappy. At that moment, the surging energy was his enemy. In this void there is no time, no light, no sound. Living is worse than dying. The other party said indifferently. Upon understanding, Tang Tian's eyes immediately lit up. He consciously controlled the spiraling energy and circled around the void dark flames quickly. The speed of the spiraling energy increased, and the efficiency of absorbing the mist of energy increased. Tang Tian's head felt as though it was being punched. His mind went blank as though the world had stopped. But Tang Tian did not have the time to scold anyone. It had become his only hope. No matter how preposterous, no matter how complicated, he could only bite the bullet. This godlike young lad can do anything. Tang Tian muttered in his heart as he hypnotized himself. I'm out. Like a surging flood, it engulfed every corner of Tang Tian's meridians. Not good. The old man cannot think it through and wants to commit suicide. If not, why would he ask if he was afraid of death? Following the spiraling energy's increase in quantity and quality, the efficiency of absorbing the mist of energy also increased greatly. He really wanted to curse out loud. Who had created this martial technique? Are they trying to make things difficult for him? Why are you afraid of death? Tang Tian muttered to himself. I think that Grandpa Ocean Prison has something that he cannot let go of. Tang there that Tang master. There. Master there. Only alive. You master of there. Be dark I master you I Tian I master I. When the energy flowed into his dantian, the two energies instinctively sensed danger, and at the same time the light aura burst forth. How about you save me first and then find a place for yourself? His consciousness flew into the void dark flames. Tang Tian felt his surroundings darken, and he entered an endless void. The pain that was tormenting his mental state had disappeared. In this void there was not a bit of light, not a bit of sound. What made Tang Tian heave a sigh of relief was, the spiraling energy was extremely effective. Although the spiraling energy was slow, it was firm as it flowed through the meridians. The energy of the mist was many times bigger than before. Tang Tian felt that his body was like an inflated balloon. The other party was quiet for a long time. But where can I get the void dark flames? The laughter stopped and a roar came out. Brat, Ocean Prison is here, come and get it. Suddenly the other party chuckled and gradually the smile became a laugh. Ha! The destructive power of the void dark flames was extremely strong. The energy that was originally like water rushed forward, and was immediately burnt into a mist. The blue light in Tang Tian's dantian was dense. It was extremely beautiful, but Tang Tian's pain was multiplying. The enemy must be killed without mercy. Tang Tian inhaled a breath of cold air. The old man's attitude seemed to be very firm. Without saying a word, Tang Tian split the thick spiraling energy into two. Following the same pattern as time passed, the spiraling energy in his body had already exceeded 10, like a group of silver fishes swimming in the water for food. The spiraling energy had also undergone a huge change from before. It became even brighter and more agile. The true power threads became even more fine and compact, and the size had also doubled. Tang Tian felt that he was at a loss for words and did not know how to persuade him. He racked his brains and said, "Grandpa Ocean Prison, this place is truly lonely and very boring, but why did Grandpa Ocean Prison live here for so long, and only until today did you not think it through? Grandpa Ocean Prison?" The other party was startled but immediately reacted and laughed out loud. Interesting. It was extremely difficult for the spiraling energy to advance. The energy from the crane crystal pellets explosion was extremely condensed, and the spiraling energy was unable to absorb it. But Tang Tian knew if he did not do anything he would definitely die. Other than revolving the spiraling energy, he had no other way. How to sense? After an unknown period of time, the spiraling energy suddenly loosened around him. The other party was silent. Tang Tian swallowed his saliva and with a face of earnest advice, "Grandpa Ocean Prison, as the saying goes, a good death is better than a bad life. This is the biggest logic in the world. Every single person who dies will be regretting in some corner." Tang Tian was only praying that the Saint Sword Ocean Prison could understand human words. You are after all a Saint Sword, at least you should be smarter than the Safe and Sound Sword. The Safe and Sound Sword could understand people. Little brother Ocean Prison, big brother Ocean Prison, Uncle Ocean Prison, Grandpa Ocean Prison. After a rough look, Tang Tian could not help but want to curse. Tang Tian heaved a sigh of relief and rubbed his hands. That Ocean Prison. A blurry figure appeared in the void not far from Tang Tian and gradually appeared. Tang Tian could see the outline of the person's body, but his face was a blur. And the usual sense of space was completely subverted here. The opponent seemed to be very close to him but also very far away. Such a weird feeling was something Tang Tian had never experienced before. I need more void dark flames. No, I cannot let the void dark flames dim down. Tang Tian suddenly realized. The crux of the battle was how long the void dark flames could last. Can it be any more preposterous? If the walls of the dantian were to break, that would mean that the dantian would be destroyed. It was the grandpa level ocean prison. Damn it. And these 17 changes were not the first threshold. The first threshold was that you need to sense the Saint Sword Ocean Prison. As for how to sense it, it did not mention a single word. The sky above Tang Tian's dantian was blue and black. It was clearly differentiated. The blue was the ice blue heart, while the black was the void dark flames. These two completely different types of energy caused Tang Tian's dantian to be divided into two different colored regions. Of course, Tang Tian was obviously extremely anxious. He wanted to shout out loud, "Grandpa Ocean Prison, follow me." But it seemed the other party was not easy to fool. He could only patiently explain, "Grandpa Ocean Prison, us humans and your swords. What swords are different? If you are not careful you will die." At this time he did not care much. He had to try first. The first step, he needed to sense the Saint Sword Ocean Prison. Tang Tian's mind surfaced all the unfamiliar sword techniques. Amongst them was the technique to summon the void dark flames. At this time Tang Tian did not care about the unknown sword techniques. His life was more important. But the void dark flames had been exhausted for a long time, and was currently extremely dim. The energy was starting to gain the upper hand, causing Tang Tian to feel that something was wrong. He tried to use the spiraling energy to absorb the liquid form energy, but realized that he was unable to absorb it. Bang! The mist form energy around the void dark flames was immediately swept away, and the terrifying feeling of explosion was finally alleviated. He endured the pain of his meridians exploding, and used all his might to revolve the spiraling energy in his body. Why? Tang Tian was startled. If I die, there will be nothing left. My family will be gone, my friends will be gone, and my dreams will be gone. Living is better than dying. Tang Tian thought for a long time. His attention landed on the void dark flames, and without hesitation he immersed his consciousness into the void dark flames. His thoughts were simple: if there was anything related to the Saint Sword Ocean prison, it would most probably be the void dark flames. Tang Tian looked around, but there was nothing. In just a few breaths of time, the spiraling energy had obviously become thicker. Tang Tian was facing a great enemy. He became alert and immediately nodded his head. Yes, yes. Grandpa Ocean Prison, how are you? Once the crane crystal pellet entered his throat, Tang Tian's body could not help but tremble, as though a bomb had exploded in his body. The astonishing amount of energy suddenly surged and dissipated in all directions. A black sword without a sword blocking it quietly floated in the air. Tang Tian, who was in a state of confusion, suddenly regained his senses. The spiraling energy had actually rushed to his dantian and entered the area of influence of the void dark flames. The void dark flames' firepower was much dimmer than before, and the entire dantian was enveloped by the blue energy mist. What made Tang Tian even more shocked was that his dantian walls actually had cracks. You are Tang Tian? The other party's voice was very old and deep. Roughly looking, from sensing the Saint Sword Ocean prison to pulling it out from the void, his true power had gone through 17 changes. Such a complicated martial technique, Tang Tian had never seen or heard of it before. Wherever the spiraling energy passed, his 6 senses would multiply, and the pain would also multiply, causing Tang Tian's mind to become numb. But his willpower was strong. Although the situation was dangerous and extremely painful, he had never thought of giving up. His mind was filled with only one thought, and that was to let the spiraling energy advance. Tang Tian suddenly saw the spiraling energy revolving around the void dark flames, and immediately sensed something different. He endured the pain, calmed his heart, and after a while he understood. The spiraling energy was truly unable to absorb the concentrated energy from the explosion of the crane crystal pellet, but it was able to absorb the energy that was dispersed by the void dark flames. The ice blue heart had already been compressed into a small regiment of blue light, while the void dark flames was like an enraged lion, not giving an inch. Chapter 354. Tang Tian was startled. He did not instigate the spiraling energy. Tang Tian's heart secretly trembled. It was as though what floated in front of him was not a sword, but a nameless fierce beast quietly lying dormant, and could explode at any time, choosing people to devour. The 36 rays of spiraling energy converged together. The power was completely different. They spun at a high speed, bringing along a black flame. Tang Tian had already started to regain control of his body. The situation was finally under control, and he heaved a sigh of relief. Although there was still a bit of energy left, but the damage to Tang Tian's body was very low. Not good. The spiraling energy in his body was like a shark that smelled blood, and swam along his meridians with all its might. But the meridians in Tang Tian's body were currently filled with compressed energy. The spiraling energy's resistance was huge, and its speed was extremely slow. And the first spiraling energy shot out from the void dark flames, like an extremely powerful arrow. It pierced into the remaining energy. Peng, the remaining highly concentrated energy suddenly shattered, turning into a cloud of mist. Before the mist could even spread, it disappeared and was completely absorbed by the spiraling energy. Just as Tang Tian was preparing to test out his new idea, a change occurred. Tang Tian was unsure. Suddenly he felt an intense pain in his body immediately bent over, and the void dark flames in his body became so weak that it was almost extinguished. But in Tang Tian's hand, there was only the sword hilt. The sword blade had completely disappeared. Tang Tian was startled. He was prepared to grab the sword hilt to see what was going on, but he realized the sword hilt did not move at all, as though it was embedded in the air. A shocking scene happened in Tang Tian's body. The void dark flames quickly gained the upper hand. It was the sword hilt. Tang Tian's eyes were wide open. He clenched his teeth, his face was distorted, and he held onto the sword hilt with all his might. What happened next gave him a huge fright. Go get the sword. The black void dark flames slowly and steadily flowed into Tang Tian's meridians from his palm. It was like an extremely hot black asphalt. Everywhere it passed, the pain caused Tang Tian's mind to go blank. Tang Tian's expanded meridians were not able to shrink in time, and were once again occupied by the void dark flames. With astonishing speed, the void dark flames tempered Tang Tian's meridians, causing Tang Tian's meridians to become sparkling and translucent. It looked like it had become thinner, but it was even more tenacious than before. Most importantly, it was much thicker than before. The energy of the crane crystal Dan had already been completely absorbed by the spiral energy, and at this time, the original appearance of Tang Tian's dantian finally appeared. The void dark flames was only left with a small strand, while the ice blue heart was compressed into a blue pearl. The sound of ice water being poured on a piece of red-hot metal could be heard. Saint Sword Ocean Prison's blade was slowly pulled out from the void by Tang Tian. The dense black flames coiled around the blade, burning the air. The transparent spiraling energy was still formed from even finer true power threads, but every single true power thread was sparkling and translucent, and they were intertwined together in an extremely complicated way. Looking carefully, one would realize that the fine and transparent true power threads were actually flowing slowly. Tang Tian's hands unconsciously held onto the Saint Sword Ocean Prison, and released a heart-wrenching scream. Quietly floating in the void, it was as quiet as a virgin. Its entire body was as black as ink. The palm width of the sword blade was 2.5 m long, perfectly straight without a trace of curve. The sword hilt that was over 30 centimeters long was enough for a grown man to hold the sword with both hands. The most peculiar thing was, it did not have a guard, which made it look extremely ferocious. Tang Tian suddenly thought about the highly condensed energy. He calmed his heart down and carefully observed it, and only after a long while did he realize. The true power threads were truly in a liquid state, and were much more condensed and viscous than the highly compressed energy, and on the outside was a layer of transparent membrane, which was Tang Tian's martial spirit. Zzz. So. Tang Tian had just thought of that when he suddenly realized that he had actually moved to the front of the Saint Sword Ocean Prison. Saint Sword Ocean Prison's sword hilt. Seeing the black spiraling energy in his body, it was the result of the spiraling energy absorbing the void dark flames. Tang Tian suddenly thought of something. The spiraling energy could absorb the void dark flames, and the Saint Sword Ocean Prison did not seem to have any reaction to the spiraling energy absorbing the void dark flames. The surrounding void retreated like a tide. Tang Tian suddenly realized that he was inside the passage, and Crane and Ling Su, who were at the side, entered his vision. The two of them were meditating and did not seem to be in a good situation. The energy wreaking havoc in Tang Tian's body was like boiling water. Tang Tian's entire body was red like a cooked prawn, so red that it looked like blood would seep out of his skin at any time. Saint Sword Ocean Prison was slowly being pulled out from the void by Tang Tian. The pitch-black sword body released an extremely dangerous qi. If Tang Tian were to open his eyes, he would definitely be shocked to realize that the remaining energy in the passage seemed to have been immobilized and had stopped flowing. The number of them had increased from 18 to 24, and it was a spectacular sight. Tang Tian could feel the surging energy in the transparent spiraling energy and was surprised and happy. Before he could react, the other spiraling energy seemed to have received a summon, and rushed towards the void dark flames. Tang Tian had an even more brazen thought. If he used the void dark flames to temper his martial spirit silver flame, would it make his martial spirit stronger? Tang Tian's body trembled like fried beans. The energy in his body flowed along his arm, and rushed towards the sword hilt. And the void dark flames inside the Saint Sword Ocean Prison was far from what the void dark flames in Tang Tian's body could compare to. The highly condensed energy had not even touched the sword hilt, and was refined into a mist. Bang. Unless it was a dream? The originally devastating energy was already showing signs of being unable to withstand it. The sword hilt trembled slightly as though a slumbering fierce beast had been awakened. If not for Bell's investigation, Wu Wanghai would have told Tang Tian that it was an unfamiliar name. Even now, Tang Tian did not know much about Wu Wanghai. The only impression he had was that this senior was very powerful and swift and fierce and that sort of thing. This speed caused Tang Tian to be dumbstruck, and he was immediately overjoyed. The spiraling energy slowly but steadily advanced, and when they rushed to Tang Tian's wrist, the resistance immediately lessened, and they happily swam around the energy mist, frantically absorbing the mist energy. 36 rays of spiraling energy suddenly flew through his meridians, like a school of transparent fishes. One after another of the spiraling energy flew out from the void dark flames, Like transparent swordfish jumping out of the water, they once again returned to Tang Tian's meridians. The concentration of the energy was too high, to the point that he was unable to absorb it. Once he lost control of the situation, his dantian would shatter, and at that time his body would be incinerated by the energy and not even a scrap would remain. Ah! The spiraling energy in Tang Tian's body had already reached 18 rays. The void dark flames currently held the absolute advantage. Tang Tian felt the sword hilt loosening, gathered his remaining strength and pulled out fiercely. But the spiraling energy had already grown to 36 rays. Upon thinking about it, Tang Tian was eager to try it out. To other people such a risky method would definitely be carefully thought through, but to Tang Tian he did not have much hesitation. But Tang Tian's face changed, the situation was dire, he held onto the sword hilt tightly, and used all his strength to pull out. In terms of size, the newly formed spiraling energy was thinner than the previous one by half, but it was surprisingly agile, its speed was as fast as lightning. With just a thought from Tang Tian it would instantly complete half a cycle. The originally jet-black spiraling energy slowly became transparent, as though it was slowly throwing out the void dark flames in his body. This discovery made Tang Tian overjoyed, but the following observation made him even more shocked. Not only did the spiraling energy not repel the void dark flames, but instead continued to absorb them. It was Tang Tian's first time seriously observing the Saint Sword Ocean Prison. Tang Tian tried to control one of the spiraling energy to fly towards the void dark flames. They were like a school of silver fishes, shining and extremely agile. Tang Tian's arm immediately inflated like a balloon. The needle-like pain caused him to almost let go of the sword hilt, but he knew that he definitely could not let go. If he did, he would be finished. The void dark flames seemed to be endless, there was no end, but there were 35 more vortices. Chapter 355. Maybe I can think of some ideas on the spiraling energy. The void dark flames went through a complete cycle and finally reached the dantian. The star spirit beasts were immediately enraged. Their intelligence had been awakened, and Tang Tian's blatant disdain immediately stirred up the hornet's nest. Countless figures suddenly pounced towards Tang Tian. His legs suddenly exerted strength and his figure suddenly disappeared. What to do? What he had done had produced an astonishing value and the rewards were bountiful. It could be considered as a foolish person having foolish fortune. It required a huge amount of courage and endurance. After being filled up, the 6th level dantian pool also started to expand. After summoning the Saint Sword Ocean Prison, what should I do? Tang Tian looked around, trying to find the crux to break through the unfamiliar sword technique. He had just sent away a vicious wolf, and now a ferocious tiger had appeared. Tang Tian wanted to cry but no tears came out. Tang Tian's expression immediately became distorted. The surging pillar of fire pierced into the dantian. What method was there to form the 8th level of dantian? That's right, Tang Tian thought that the biggest part was the potential of the dantian pool. Every time the dantian pool expanded to a critical point, the spiraling energy would sense danger and automatically enter the lower level dantian pool. The dantian became bigger and bigger and the walls of the dantian became thinner and thinner. When Tang Tian regained his senses, his face changed. In the past, regardless of which mental cultivation technique, there would always be an obvious characteristic. Every time one's realm rose by a level, the space in the dantian pool would increase by more than 10 times. That was why every level of martial artist had such a huge gap. But the result in front of him made Tang Tian realize the common sense that he took for granted was most likely wrong. His body suddenly moved like a sharp arrow. He shot deep into the depths. Papa, this asshole. But unexpectedly, Tang Tian's body did not explode. The 36 spiraling energies were not only connected to his mind, but they were also extremely condensed, far surpassing his current true power. He did not even look at the corpses on the ground and disappeared into the tunnel. The cold voice was like a blade cutting through the air, cold and threatening. Tang Tian's speed did not decrease in the slightest. The straight and narrow ocean prison in his hand suddenly pointed forward, like a knight holding his lance. Life rises and falls too quickly. Tang Tian's heart was filled with sorrow. His own heaven's road was like a black rope, strung with many black beads. Tang Tian suddenly discovered that the difference in size between the adjacent dantian pools had shrunk a lot. The amount of void dark flames that the low-level Dantian pools could hold was much more than what Tang Tian had imagined. They had also grown to a much larger extent than the 7th-level Dantian pools. Tang Tian was trying his best to find a way, but neglected the progress of the void dark flames. The void dark flames had already reached Tang Tian's lowest-level Dantian pool, and had pushed it to the critical point. If this went on, his Dantian would be forcefully burst. The 7th level could just liquefy the true power. However, Tang Tian felt the benefits. Tang Tian finally understood what it meant to quench one's thirst. Tang Tian clenched his teeth, he could only continue to guide it. The extremely sharp sword aura spewed out from the two sides of the flat ocean prison sword. At this time, no one corrected him that it was quenching one's thirst. He glanced at Crane and Ling Su, who were trembling from head to toe, but did not have any intention to help. He held on to the long and narrow ocean prison sword, and gazed into the depths of the waterway. Tang Tian's figure did not move, his wrist trembled slightly, and the long ocean prison sword drew out a faint sword image. The black figure did not even have time to scream, and its head was separated from its body. This strange phenomenon attracted Tang Tian's attention. He initially thought that after absorbing so much energy he would definitely be able to level up. Who knew that it would produce 36 rays of spiraling energy, causing Tang Tian to be surprised. Hey, Grandpa Ocean Prison, it's about time, it's about time. Tang Tian's tone was filled with flattery, looking as though he could not wait to bow and scrape. Tang Tian's heart was filled with tears. It was not that he did not want to bow and scrape, but damn it, he did not even have the chance to bow and scrape. Tang Tian's meridians were all being refined by the void dark flames. They quickly became transparent, and the originally shrinking meridians were once again widened. The thick diameter, the thin and transparent walls, was Tang Tian's current meridians. The black figure was actually a star spirit beast and had already reached the 8th level. But Tang Tian's cold heart still throbbed. If he had come out a step later, he would have been played to death by that idiot. Even though he already had the intention to clean up the mess, but he hated danger. What happened next was a spectacular sight. The true power in his Dantian was instantly evaporated, and then was devoured by the spiraling energy. The void dark flames seemed to be endless, continuously flowing into his Dantian, and in the blink of an eye his Dantian was full. Super 7th level. He once again browsed through the unfamiliar sword techniques in his mind. Now he had mixed feelings towards the things that suddenly appeared in his mind. At the start he was extremely repulsed and resistant, and after that the Saint Sword Ocean Prison saved his life, but immediately after, it pushed Tang Tian to the edge of the cliff. The sky-shaking roars of the star spirit beasts suddenly stopped, and the sky full of black figures was swept away. Tang Tian's body froze, his mind was blank, and he lost all consciousness. Idiots also have their own benefits, their endurance is not bad. If Crane and Ling Su were awake, they would definitely be shocked. Tang Tian's display of speed was almost 3 times faster than before. And his light body technique was not wind concealment steps. Unless the low-level Dantian pool actually had a lot of potential. The 30 spiraling energy pierced downwards, entering the 6th-level Dantian pool, and began to guide the void dark flames in. The void dark flames entered Tang Tian's 6th-level Dantian pool, causing the situation to turn for the better. But the 6th-level Dantian pool was originally much smaller than the 7th-level Dantian pool, and very quickly it was filled up. Tang Tian followed the passage and flew forward without stopping. After a moment of silence, Tang Tian's eyes slowly opened. The terrifying pupils were gray, his mouth revealing a cold smile. He gently caressed the ocean prison sword's body and softly muttered, "Thank you." Almost at the same time he rushed into the group of star spirit beasts, his body leaning forward at an angle of 30 degrees to the ground. Over 100 star spirit beasts did not delay Tang Tian's footsteps at all. Fresh blood splashed across the entire passage, spurting everywhere. The dense blood stench was choking, but Tang Tian's body was not stained with a single drop of blood. As though it could feel Tang Tian's thoughts, the spiraling energy in his Dantian swam faster and faster, and gradually, a vortex formed in his Dantian. The Dantian produced a strong suction force, and the speed of the void dark flames that were slowly advancing along his meridians increased greatly. The void dark flames and ice blue heart above his Dantian shattered at the same time and disappeared. The Saint Sword Ocean prison in Tang Tian's hand suddenly trembled. Tang Tian's dantian walls started to be burnt by the void dark flames, and the void dark flames continued to pour in, accumulating more and more void dark flames, pushing the dantian walls to slowly expand outwards. Tang Tian's dantian was like a balloon that was slowly being inflated, becoming bigger and bigger. The dantian was like a lake. The 36 rays of spiraling energy swam in one direction in the dantian. The stench of blood immediately pervaded the entire passage, and star spirit beasts appeared from the shadows. The energy concentration here was extremely high, and it was sealed off without anyone to disturb. It was easy for star spirit beasts to breed. The original dantian pool had disappeared, and what replaced it was a sparkling and translucent dantian pool wall that resembled cicada wings. The new dantian walls, after going through the tempering of the void dark flames, were crystallized true power. Ordinary methods would definitely not be able to crystallize Tang Tian's true power when he was at the 7th level. Tang Tian calmed his heart down and thought carefully. His mental cultivation was already in a mess, because the energy in his body was too complicated. But the current energy in his body was swept clean, and only the 36 rays of spiraling energy remained. Tang Tian's mind trembled. The void dark flames and ice blue heart in his dantian originated from his blood meridians, and had an extremely close connection with him. The 36 rays of spiraling energy suddenly pierced into Tang Tian's dantian. Suddenly, a black figure pounced towards him as fast as lightning. The 6th level dantian pool was blown to its maximum, and under that helplessness, Tang Tian continued to guide it downwards. Or maybe it was a special case. The ocean prison sword hummed in his hands. It was extremely joyful. The ocean-like void dark flames in Tang Tian's body trembled. Tang Tian, who was already at his limit, finally lost consciousness. The biggest problem in his body was the void dark flames. Where did the void dark flames come from? Came from the Saint Sword Ocean prison. Yes, that's right. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. He felt that he had found the source of the problem. Tang Tian did not understand, but there was one thing that was definitely not a problem, and that was the stairway to heaven. Only by forming another layer of dantian could he step into a whole new realm. Everywhere Tang Tian passed, the star spirit beasts would all be sliced in half by an invisible sharp blade. Not a single star spirit beast could block it, and not a single star spirit beast could escape. Tang Tian was surprised. It was the first time Tang Tian had seen such a situation. His pitiful knowledge did not have any information related to what was happening in front of him. But no matter how stupid he was, he knew that he was at a critical juncture and life and death were in a line. He racked his brains and started to think about it bit by bit. The dantian that had crystal walls had a huge increase in capacity. The smaller ones had expanded by 5 to 6 times, and the larger ones had expanded by 10 times. Tang Tian did not even bat an eyelid. His speed did not decrease and rushed forward. The Saint Sword Ocean prison in his hand did not have any reaction. The tyrannical void dark flames in Tang Tian's body had become tamed. He noticed the situation in his body and was surprised. Every dantian pool had been expanded to its maximum. If he was half a step slower, the fate that awaited him would be his body exploding and dying. Tang Tian had already forgotten about the danger. His mind started to wander. Very quickly he felt that he was not alone. Although the void dark flames was weird, but it was truly able to test the potential of every dantian pool. Even if it was just a whisper, it was bone-chilling. Tang Tian's strength had soared by leaps and bounds. No one with 7th level true power could compare to him. All of Tang Tian's dantian could hold true power, and was much stronger than any ordinary 8th level dantian. Saint Sword Ocean prison. 8th level. The void dark flames in his body were quickly drawn out by Saint Sword Ocean prison, and Tang Tian's body disappeared, leaving behind an enlarged dantian pool. Tang Tian's expression was normal, without a trace of change, as though what he had done was an extremely simple matter. Chapter 356. Angelina, take good care of General Ba. Zhou Ning laughed sinisterly. His eyes twitched and said hatefully, "Let's go." This woman was truly scheming. To be so dejected just now, she was actually prepared to end her own life. The entire place was dead silent. As for you, Zhou Ning, you are only fit to be a dog. Ba Fu's pupils constricted and he stopped in his tracks. Angelina's heart was dead. Angelina felt as though she had fallen into an ice house. Her hands and feet were ice cold. This time he had more time to move around and could do many things. If not for the fact that he had no other choice, he would not have been able to tolerate the low efficiency of himself. Ba Fu was extremely pleased. With a sinister smile, he walked towards Angelina. Everyone then realized, unknowingly, there was another person behind Angelina. George was extremely upset. He knew that Zhou Ning's reputation was terrible. He said gently, "Angelina, stop struggling. I will definitely do everything I can to stop this from happening. But the master's orders, we cannot go against it." Ocean Prison Sword was too conspicuous, and the fact that it did not have a handguard left a deep impression. A rapier without a handguard looked like a sharp and thin metal bar and should be even more common. What kind of swordsman would dare to use such a dangerous rapier? Hee, what dogs love the most is prey. Zhou Ning laughed sinisterly, extremely pleased. "Miss Angelina, to think of playing such tricks in front of me. You are still too inexperienced. I need to plan properly for the next 15 days. Glancing at the stars in the sky, Tang Tian determined his position. George's troops left in a hurry. Angelina's hair stood on end from the cold intent. Tang Tian's rapier quietly hung by his side, his body as straight as a spear. The black flames on his body flowed slowly, his entire being enveloped in complete darkness. Ba Fu acted as though he had heard the funniest joke in the world and laughed maniacally. After a long while he suddenly said, "Brother Zhou, why don't you let me play for 2 days? Ba Fu, you and the Honorable Martial Alliance are colluding together and one day you will die a horrible death." Her guards were falling one by one and the situation was getting worse for her. However, the other party's people had already surrounded her, and she was unable to break out. To the current Tang Tian, the power of the void dark flames was truly too strong, and himself had received a huge impact. Under normal circumstances, he would be unconscious for around 15 days, but to him it was a rare opportunity. Although that self was a bit of an idiot, the speed of his growth made him have to admit that he was stronger than him. He was calm enough. To him, lying dormant and waiting was no different from attacking. Moreover, he had an accurate judgment of himself. He was more suited for darkness. "General Ba, please enjoy." Zhou Ning smiled evilly. Without a guard, the rapier was like a straight, thin steel bar. This caused the rapier to lose all of its elegance and slenderness, leaving only its fierceness and viciousness. Everyone present had been through hundreds of battles and had a deeper understanding of weapons than the average person. Angelina was in despair, but she knew that any begging or crying would only make the other party more pleased. She straightened her chest, her snow-white fingers combed her bangs, and naturally touched her face and slowly opened her mouth. Unknowingly, her fingertips had a glistening blue needle, touching the snow-white skin of her face. "Your Highness, please do not struggle meaninglessly, this will not change your situation." Outside the circle of battle, a handsome young man said leisurely, his face had a light smile which was extremely charming. "There's no time, George." Angelina's tears flowed like pearls. "Tomorrow the people from the Honorable Martial Alliance will arrive. If tomorrow I am still in the palace, they will definitely marry me off to Zhou Ning. The master will not object and I am only third in the list of successors." Angelina's heart jumped. Suddenly she realized that her body could not move, her entire body was not listening to her. The sudden change caused everyone to quiver. All of the guards that rushed in like a tide were the elites under Ba Fu. All of them were extremely powerful and George's men were not their match. Angelina's face changed, her heart felt as though it was being clenched tightly by a hand, and she felt that she could not breathe. She did not know that her face was as white as paper. She said sternly, "You dare. Even if I marry Zhou Ning, I will not tolerate you insulting me." The rapier in his hand caused everyone's eyes to constrict. A black flame mask covered his entire face. His grayish-white eyes were cold and emotionless. A cloak with flowing black flames wrapped around his body tightly. She looked at the two of them, filled with disdain. Her heart sunk. Killing countless star spirit beasts and mechanisms along the way, Tang Tian seemed to be taking a stroll, his body not stained with any blood. But he finally had the chance to breathe and did not want to waste it. Facing the sunlight, Tang Tian squinted his eyes, his eyebrows frowned slightly. He did not like sunlight. An evil-looking man beside Ba Fu chuckled. "Brother Ba has taken a liking to her, it is her good fortune." Women are playthings, it is only interesting to share them with everyone. I still have a few fresh and pretty girls. I will send them to Brother Ba's residence tonight. All of them have some background, they are all from prestigious families. I hope Brother Ba can judge them. Tang Tian quietly stood on the tree branch like an owl hiding in the night, the dense leaves covering his body. There were so many people fighting, but no one noticed that less than 60 m away from them, there was a person hiding. She stared blankly at the evil-looking man, her body swaying. Tang Tian's figure suddenly disappeared. Tee George, no wonder you can't rise up. A voice suddenly came out from behind George. Whoosh, a large group of people rushed out, surrounding all of them. Ba Fu looked at Angelina in front of him, his eyes burning with passion, licking his lips. Angelina, you are finally in my hands. I have waited for this day for a long time. George was slightly sad. Angelina, this is Master's order. Surrender, I will not hurt you. Suddenly, an ice-cold and slender metal strip pressed against her snow-white neck and silently pierced forward. The rapier was originally a type of sword that emphasized offense and ignored defense, and the handguard was one of its few effective defensive functions. Since the swordsman didn't even have a handguard, it meant that the swordsman pursued extreme offense and didn't think about defense at all. Angelina was distressed. George, I do not want to marry the Honorable Martial Alliance's Zhou Ning. If I go back, they will definitely force me to marry Zhou Ning. Zhou Ning is just Zhou Xian's dog. I will definitely not marry him. But she knew that throwing a tantrum was useless. Her eyes revealed fear and panic, and she looked pitiful. George, we grew up together. Do you really want to harm me? That was why he pursued offense and did not care about his life. The other party held onto the black rapier and slowly walked out from behind Angelina. His left palm opened up and Tang Tian wiped his face. The black void dark flames transformed into a burning black flame mask covering his face. Tang Tian's body released surging black flames, transforming into a cloak, enveloping his entire body. The black flames were like ordinary flames and did not have any void dark flame chi. The ocean prison sword in his right hand transformed into a void dark flame and quickly shrunk, becoming a black rapier. But in Angelina's eyes, it was despicable. A fierce-looking man slowly walked out, his face full of ridicule. Truly a woman's benevolence. All right, you can scram, leave this to me. Suddenly he heard movement from afar. But he did not plan to change anything. When they reached Southern Cross Constellation, it would be the decisive battle. Regardless if it was him or himself, they were far from being strong enough. Either it was a death warrior or a swordsman that had absolute confidence in his own offensive capabilities. Regardless of which, it made Zhou Ning's heart feel a bad premonition. Ba Fu laughed out loud. Losing and regaining was more exciting than anything else. The despair on that beautiful face made him so excited that his bones trembled. He took big steps, extended his hand and grabbed Angelina's voluptuous chest. Ba Fu's palm felt like it was bitten by a snake and suddenly felt pain. He groaned, retreated quickly and roared, "Who?" Angelina sat by the shore, holding her chin, her golden hair scattered over her shoulders, her high nose bridge, her deep blue eyes that were as enchanting as the sea. The long dress that was tied around her waist displayed her voluptuous chest to the fullest. George's face was green. Ba Fu scolded him for being a woman's benevolence, but he did not dare to say anything. Ba Fu held a high position in Andromeda constellation. He was the master's imperial bodyguard. His strength was unfathomable. If he showed any hesitation, Ba Fu would not hesitate to kill him, even if he was the second successor of the Maple Leaf family. Andromeda constellation. Begging only made him feel happy and excited. Angelina held back her tears, her eyes revealing a look of despair. George grew up with her and she knew his personality like the back of her hand. He was actually innocent and kind. If she begged, maybe he would let her live. George's bodyguards all heaved a sigh of relief. Ba Fu's fierce name in Andromeda constellation could definitely stop a child from crying. But Ba Fu was a true cold-blooded murderer with a heart of stone. That him would rampage about while he would hide in the darkness, and when the enemy revealed a flaw, he would give a fatal blow. That was what he was most proficient in. This plan was most suitable for both parties, so from the start he did not fight for control of the body. A thin sword stuck close to Angelina's neck, extended out. Chapter 357. The surrounding guards seemed to have awoken from their stupor, roaring out and pounced towards Tang Tian like a tide. But what no one expected was the rapier swordsman and Angelina who were in the encirclement had disappeared. Normally, such a person in any constellation would have an extremely high position. Being ranked third meant that her strength and talent was outstanding, and there were only 2 people who were more outstanding than her. For the stronger constellations like the 12 ecliptic palaces, their top 10 successors would be protected. For the smaller constellations, they would usually place the top 5 successors as important targets of protection. Either Andromeda constellation was already in a desperate situation, or these people did not even have the so-called master's orders. Regardless of which it was thought-provoking. A strange true power drilled into Zhou Ning's body from the silver whip, causing Zhou Ning's face to change. He screamed out, loosening his grip and flew backwards with all his might. Master. The only question left was Andromeda constellation worth him taking action? His state of mind did not have any ripples and was extremely calm. After weighing the pros and cons, he realized Andromeda constellation's specialness. The third-ranked successor would be married to one of Zhou Xian's subordinates? If not for personally witnessing it, Tang Tian would definitely not believe it. Zhou Xian was ranked third among the young generation of the Honorable Martial Alliance, and had a bright future, but in the Honorable Martial Alliance, Zhou Xian was far from being a person with real power. All the martial artists who witnessed the scene were overwhelmed with shock. All the martial artists who originally planned to rush forward, retreated in panic. Ba Fu, who was about to pounce forward, was like a nail nailed to the ground. He raised his face, extremely shocked. Shepherd Whip, one of the treasured weapons of Bodhisattva constellation, was actually turned into fine powder by the opponent's sword. Ba Fu's body froze, his eyes revealing a look of shock. Ding. Hope rose in her heart, but she was smart enough to not speak. She did not know anything about him, so she spoke less, the less mistakes she made. If she spoke nonsense and angered the opponent, it would be bad. Furthermore, other than obtaining the approval of the big families of the constellation, she also needed the approval of the Saint Treasure. Obtaining the approval of the Saint Treasure meant that the inheritance of the constellation could be continued. Of the 2 conditions, the former was not the only one, but the latter was the true key. Could it be? He had seen Zhou Ning's sheepherder whip for the past few days. Boodi's constellation was only a northern sky grade, but the silver whip was a rarely seen treasure weapon. Moreover, Zhou Ning had spent a lot of effort on it, using the secret skills of the Honorable Martial Alliance to continuously temper it. After a long time, it had already begun to turn a little golden. So in Northern Sky's 19 continents, there were a few small constellations that followed Andromeda constellation's lead. Just how powerful was the power of this sword? He already had it. She was not a vase after all. She tried hard to control the fear in her heart and not let it spread. Night. Bang. Zhou Xian's ambition is too big. A hoarse voice came out from the black flame cloak. His voice was filled with an indescribable coldness. In truth, his position was no different from Angelina's. They were both candidates for succession. Zhou Ning felt the danger and arched her body. She narrowed her eyes and stared at Tang Tian. She said coldly, "Who are you?" The tip of the rapier accurately pierced his silver whip. But the sword only pierced through Ba Fu's palm, causing him to be surprised. What was surprising was that Tang Tian did not take the chance to attack, but stood quietly in front of Angelina. No matter how small a feudal lord was, he was still a feudal lord. He had stayed for so long, was to obtain more information from the opponent. But she had never seen such a sword technique that was filled with dark qi. He quietly stood there with his sword, not saying a word, and did not intentionally hide his figure. It was a chance. Andromeda constellation was just one of the 19 continents in Northern Sky, and in Heaven's Road, it was just a small feudal lord in the desolate wilderness. Angelina was completely scared silly. The sword that was like a snake or scorpion made her lose all her courage. As the third successor of Andromeda constellation, she was not a flower in a greenhouse. She had battle experience and had personally killed more than one enemy. Even when she was facing the infamous Ba Fu, she did not cower in the slightest. "General Ba, don't fall for it," Zhou Ning said anxiously. "Don't even think of escaping." But such a powerful star treasure was actually destroyed by the opponent's sword. This made Angelina feel weird. In her impression, all the assassins that walked in the dark liked to bend their backs at all times and be on guard at all times. They would work hard to make others ignore their existence, but the person in front of her was not like that. The third position was already a relatively high position, which also meant if the two in front of her fell, or if their future growth did not reach expectations, then the right of inheritance would most likely land on the golden-haired beauty in front of her. Andromeda constellation was one of the strongest constellations in northern sky's 19 continents. As the Saint Treasure of Andromeda constellation only recognized females, so the successive masters were all females. The Saint Treasure of Andromeda constellation was the famous fairy hoop. Its might was not the strongest among the Saint Treasures of northern sky's 19 continents. But because of the stable inheritance, the successive masters of the constellations were all relatively stable, accumulating from generation to generation, and instead became one of the strongest powerhouses in northern sky's 19 continents. The third successor interesting. That was the only reason why Tang Tian made his move. But obviously, everything that was happening in front of him was not normal at all. Ba Fu roared fiercely. He was already unable to restrain his anger. His right palm was dripping with blood. Tang Tian's sword had completely pierced through his palm. What made him even more afraid was, a thread of Yin true power had seeped into his palm. No matter how he activated his true power, he was unable to expel the thread of true power from his body. In that moment, Tang Tian could see the indistinct whirlpool in the chaotic information. That was what any constellation master was most unwilling to see. No one dared to move. They could only watch as the opponent carried Angelina, as though he was taking a stroll, disappearing from their vision. Zhou Ning's roar came out from the sky. He reacted the moment Tang Tian disappeared. A silver light shot out from his hand, like a silver snake coming out of its hole into the sky. Andromeda constellation's security was the best in northern sky's 19 continents. The lives of the citizens were always stable, and the successive constellation masters were deeply supported by the citizens. Without any hesitation, realizing that, Tang Tian brazenly made his move. Because of his family, Zhou Xian had been groomed to be independent since young. He was still far from being a true high-ranking elder of the Honorable Martial Alliance in terms of connections, qualifications and strength. He could not compare. In times of peace, the so-called rising stars, if they wanted to truly wield power, they had to endure it step by step. Even behind him, Angelina could clearly feel the calmness that was naturally leaking out from his body. Was that absolute confidence? I wonder who you are? Zhou Ning's expression was calm, only his eyes were sinister. The world was full of surprises. The 5 successors could only ensure that the legacy could be passed down, but the difference in ranking meant the difference in strength. The constellation master's strength to any constellation was the most important. If the new constellation master's strength dropped, then the constellation's strength would definitely drop. The Honorable Martial Alliance's strength could naturally crush Andromeda constellation, but it would definitely not do so. No matter how small the feudal vassals were, they were still targets to rope in. Such wanton humiliation would not benefit the Honorable Martial Alliance, and would only incur the wrath of the small feudal vassals. Ba Fu, the master is very disappointed in you. Suddenly, a cold voice came out from the black flames. Although these people were under the orders of the master of Andromeda constellation, but Tang Tian did not believe it at all. The constellation master had his own pride and bottom line. Unless it was a matter of life and death for the constellation, he would definitely not use the successor as a bargaining chip. The abnormal scene in front of him revealed a lot of information. Because the chosen successor was usually a young man, no matter how his future achievements were, no matter how wise the constellation master was, he could not guarantee that his vision would not be wrong. To have a few more candidates and then pick the most outstanding one, that was the common practice of the various constellations in Heaven's Road. The competition between the candidates was something that the constellation master was happy to see happen. If he liked one of them, he would naturally take care of him, but at the same time, if he could not compare to the others under his care, then there was nothing he could do. Behind the black flame mask, the calm face pulled up the corner of its mouth into an almost undetectable arc. From Ba Fu's expression, Tang Tian had already gotten the answer he wanted. If the successor was able to ascend to the throne of the constellation master, then naturally he would be in control of the universe. But there was only one throne, and the rest of the successors, naturally could only end up in darkness. The successor's position was high and protected, but usually they did not hold any real power. Almost every constellation's master would appoint a few successors. There were naturally many open and secret fights, but to a constellation, ensuring the continuation of the constellation's legacy was always the first priority. Angelina's mind involuntarily jumped out with that word. The man in front of her was completely wrapped in black flames. He was tall, his body was not thick but rather well-proportioned, his body was straight like a javelin. In another 2 to 3 years, it would be able to complete its true transformation and become a gold-rank star treasure in one leap. The other party's words had a hidden meaning as though it was hinting at something, but Zhou Ning was a cautious person and extremely careful. Kill him. Ba Fu suddenly realized and ordered sternly. It should not exist under the sunlight and should be in the darkness, silently piercing the enemy's throat. Calm down. Calm down. Angelina, you can do it. Andromeda constellation was not the strongest constellation in northern sky, but it was one of the few evergreen trees in northern sky's 19 continents. After generations of accumulation, it allowed them to have extremely deep connections in northern sky's 19 continents. And Andromeda constellation never had a history of attacking other constellations, and the previous constellation masters were the typical moderate faction, and had an extremely good reputation in northern sky's 19 continents. Tang Tian turned a deaf ear to her. Because of the strange true power, his palm was bleeding profusely. Wasn't the honorable martial alliance in a stalemate with Leo constellation? To still have the energy to come here and cause trouble. She hypnotized herself again and again, and finally her breathing calmed down, and the fear in her heart lessened. She gathered her courage and carefully sized up the man in front of her. If the situation was normal, it would be correct. I will kill you. Chapter 358. Don't tell me. After accompanying him for a few days, Mingyu had some understanding of Zhou Xian. No matter how arrogant she was, she had to admit that Zhou Xian was the most outstanding man she had ever seen. Suddenly Tang Tian noticed a carriage. Zhou Xian muttered, I did not think it through. If it is a secluded place, there is a mountain in the west of the city called Bullhead Mountain. The scenery is not bad and there are not many people. It is a good place. Who is he? Tang Tian asked. The Honorable Martial Alliance's foundation was much more outstanding than what he had imagined. Why me? He decided to spend more time with Miss Mingyu in the next few days. Zhou Xian was filled with confidence. Regardless of looks, family background or strength, he was the best of the best. In the entire Heaven's Road, it was not that there were none who were stronger than him, but there were not many. Angelina's lips trembled, her beautiful deep blue eyes were filled with fear. Father. Their goal is father. Clan Elder Hammer is the chief clan elder, Lady Ollie is Master's sister. The two of them are Master's most trusted people. Only they can enter and exit Fairy Palace. Angelina's face was pale white. But that was definitely Master's order because the order was given using star power. My friend below the carriage, please come out yourself. Angelina was extremely intelligent. Upon hearing Tang Tian's words, she immediately understood. After thinking for a moment, she was shocked. No, Master lives in seclusion and rarely goes out. We rarely see her. The order this time was given through Clan Elder Hammer and Lady Ollie. Angelina's gaze was always on Tang Tian. Until now, she did not know anything about him. Who is he? Where did he come from? Why did he save her? He did not know. Her face became even paler, her voice trembling. Thank you, Mr. Qiu. Mingyu thanked him. Miss Mingyu, be careful. Zhou Xian warned, then suddenly laughed. Look at what I said. With Miss Mingyu's strength, to have any ideas about Miss Mingyu, I'm afraid only a sacred saint domain expert would be able to do it. The order to marry you to Zhou Ning was personally given by Asda? Angelina, who was in a panic, was like a drowning person grabbing onto a straw. My father is Ta Dan. He was the commander of the Plateau Army, and the Plateau Army was the only army in Andromeda constellation. Please save my father. Thank you, Mr. Qi. Just leave the carriage. Did she face you in the face? Zhou Xian waved his hand. Miss Mingyu is too polite. He had heard that the Yi family had some relationship with Mingyu, but now it seemed that Mingyu was not satisfied with Yi Zhaoge. This was an opportunity for him. How are your injuries? Is it important? I have a bottle of medicine here, take it. Zhou Xian did not put on any airs with Ba Fu. With a face of concern, he threw the bottle of medicine to him. A frightening conjecture emerged in her mind. When he left, he had observed carefully Ling Su and Crane's meditation this time would take roughly 15 days. This was crucial to him. He wanted to play down the influence he had on the other him over the past 15 days, especially on his companion. Mingyu did not reply. She looked into the distance and seemed to be in a daze. You're right. Mingyu suddenly smiled brightly. Fairy City was the most central city of Andromeda Constellation, and was the hub of Andromeda Constellation where the fairy palace was built. Mingyu bowed to Zhou Xian. Mingyu is extremely grateful for Brother Qiu's hospitality. Suddenly Angelina thought of something and said excitedly, Wang Lin Trading. Father said that if we meet with danger, we should go find Wang Lin Trading. Wang Lin's headquarters is at West Water Street. Ba Fu was moved to tears and immediately said, No problem, no problem. Master, don't worry. Master, please enter the city. Zhou Xian laughed. I don't care, let them handle it. The reason why Tang Tian noticed the carriage was because in the long queue, only the carriage was moving forward without any worries. Mingyu turned her head and looked at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian had the unique laziness and confidence of a person in power, instantly revealing it, like a male lion opening his mouth lazily. From start to finish, his body brimmed with power that made people believe in him as though nothing could stop him. Strong was the most obvious quality he had. From the time he saved her until now, he had not spoken a word to her. When the two of them neared, they realized that Andromeda City was heavily guarded. Every entrance was guarded and checked strictly. Every entrance had a long queue and all sorts of curses could be heard. But when Ba Fu appeared, all the voices disappeared. In the carriage, a young lady with long hair draped over her shoulders, dressed in snow-white clothes, stood straight, her temperament cold, her appearance beautiful. And beside her, a young man with a serious temperament stood there with a smile. But Mingyu's eyes suddenly became cold and spoke unhurriedly. But Tang Tian's words reminded Angelina. Angelina carefully recalled and immediately found many suspicious points. For such a matter, how could the master be so careless? If she could obtain Mingyu, her value was much higher than 10 Andromeda Constellation. Mingyu secretly nodded her head. Zhou Xian was of noble birth, but did not have any arrogance that was rare and precious. Tang Tian did not care about her. He was thinking 15 days of time was enough for him to play a role in the matter. To him, time was everything. He did not want to disrupt his plans. Although his intellect was not high, but when he barged in, he was able to create a world. The Bullhead Mountain was not far. In a moment he landed at the peak. Mingyu saw that she could overlook Andromeda City. The scenery was beautiful, the air was fresh, and she could not help but reveal a satisfied smile. Zhou Xian was not annoyed at all, but magnanimously admired Mingyu's flawless face. Although he was attracted by Mingyu's beauty, it did not make him lose his reason, and he started to think. Mingyu was not just a flower vase. Regardless of whether it was her personal strength or her unfathomable background, they were all extremely powerful helpers. Mingyu could see the adoration in Zhou Xian's eyes, but to leave so straightforwardly made her admire him even more. Compared to Zhou Xian, Yong Xianzhong was inferior. She was curious. Zhou Xian was already so outstanding, but in the young generation of the Honorable Martial Alliance he was only ranked third. Then how outstanding were the first and second place? I appreciate Mr. Qiu's intentions. Mingyu leaned forward to express her thanks and said indifferently, Mingyu's cultivation is not enough, and I like to be quiet and coexist with nature. I hope Mr. Qiu can help me find a secluded place in the wilderness. Ba Fu's hand was wrapped in bandages, his face ashen, his fierce and ruthless gaze swept across, causing everyone to keep quiet out of fear. Her smile, blossoming with grace and beauty, caused Zhou Xian to be absent-minded for a moment. But he quickly regained his senses and did not dodge but praised. Miss Mingyu's smile is the most beautiful masterpiece that I have ever seen in the world. Mingyu looked at the tightly guarded city gates and was surprised. Did something happen? 15 days was just right. The place to stay has already been prepared. It's at Bright Moon Garden. Zhou Xian laughed. This is the residence of a trading organization's president. The decorations are not bad. The name is also very suitable. Miss Mingyu, please don't mind. The word brother Qiu made Zhou Xian's heart burst with joy, and he resisted the joy in his heart. Sister Ming does not need to be so courteous to me. I will leave first and not disturb Sister Ming's peace. Zhou Xian laughed and did not disturb Ba Fu's inspection and directly entered the city. A constellation master could be faked, but a saint treasure could not be faked. A cold and hoarse voice suddenly sounded out, causing Angelina to jump in fright and subconsciously replied, "Yes." Seeing Zhou Xian, Ba Fu immediately went over to flatter him. With that he called for everyone to leave and specially ordered his subordinates to guard the foot of the mountain, and stop tourists from going up. It was as though he was introducing his own territory and spoke slowly, warmly and amiably. But from the way he sat, Angelina could tell that he must have received a good education. Even if he sat on the ground, he chose a clean rock and sat upright. He was not like the hired martial artists who sat lazily. Although Andromeda constellation is just a small constellation, but the scenery in Andromeda City is not bad. Zhou Xian was refined and courteous. Accompanying the beautiful woman, he spoke slowly but was filled with power and did not make people feel disgusted. Andromeda constellation in northern skies 19 continents is the most stable, so the local businesses have always been flourishing. 90% of the large trading organizations in northern sky have their headquarters in Andromeda City. All of these rich merchants are extremely luxurious and all of their manners are extremely beautiful. Andromeda City is the most beautiful and flourishing city in northern sky. The other party's face was always covered by the black flame mask, and his entire body was covered tightly. She could not see through his background, and the other party did not have any thoughts of removing his mask. Asda was the master of Andromeda constellation, and had been in charge of Andromeda constellation for many years. The cold voice was like a knife, but it caused Angelina to calm down. She was not stupid, and being in the palace she had been exposed to all sorts of plots, and upon calming down her mind worked very quickly. The most important thing now was to pass the news to her father. If the other party had a plan, then all the people around her would definitely be watched. Angelina gathered her courage. "May I ask, who are you? Why did you save me?" "Clan Elder Hammer and Madame Ollie?" He understood the value of his companions more than him, and that was the main reason why he chose to lie low. On this point, him was even more outstanding than her. Who can be trusted? Every constellation master wielded a saint treasure, and could casually extract the power of the constellation to record sounds and images. Because only the constellation master who wielded the saint treasure could do that, so it was usually used by the constellation masters to pass down orders. Without hesitation, Tang Tian knocked Angelina out, and carried the unconscious Angelina and quietly made his way over. Obviously the carriage had a huge background and to them was the best cover. "Why you?" Tang Tian asked back. His tone was ice-cold, without a trace of warmth, without any sympathy, without any concern. Like a sharp icicle, it pierced into Angelina's heart. Chapter 359. Seems like I need to be more serious. The cold air caused her soft skin to form a layer of goosebumps. Without the protection of her dress, her body was exposed to the air. Her entire body was enveloped by the cold air, and in that moment her mind went blank. She heaved a sigh of relief, but suddenly from the corner of her eyes, she saw a black figure and her body froze. Even Tang Tian, upon seeing such a scene, could not help but become interested. He squinted his eyes and locked onto Tang Tian. Tang Tian thought quietly. The corner was pitch black, the family did not seem to be at home, and there was no sound. His face quickly regained his composure, his mind filled with questions, but he could not help but be surprised. "Miss Angelina, it's good that you're fine. When Master heard the news he wanted to find you, but you've already left the city." When Angelina woke up she realized she was in a dead end. She opened her eyes in a daze. Looking at the unfamiliar environment, she suspected that she had just slept, and that the terrifying things in her mind were all just a dream. But he only had 15 days and did not have time to waste on an unfamiliar lady, no matter how strong or beautiful she was. Coo. Angelina bit her lips tightly and did not make a sound. She knew she did not have any room to bargain. Just that Tang Tian's action shattered the strange feelings that had just risen in her heart. She had never exposed her body in front of any man before. The old man quickly closed the door, but when he turned he realized that beside Angelina, there was a man enveloped in black flames and his face changed. That was not a dream. She relaxed slightly and her mind worked even faster. This mysterious swordsman's strength was truly unfathomable. She could not imagine, under such tight security, how did he bring her into the city. She did not want him to lose his patience and did not want him to think that she was a burden. Tang Tian carried Angelina, who had fainted, and quietly left. An inaudible sound came out from behind her. She only felt a chill on her back and the heavy dress dropped to the ground. Tang Tian seemed to be deep in thought. His cold pupils were like the stars. Tang Tian flicked his wrist. The rapier was like a venomous snake spitting out its tongue, straight towards the ground in front of Angelina. Who? When the dust settled, Angelina had completely turned into a gray person. Her entire body was dirty. How could one tell that she was an outstanding beauty? Angelina whispered to Tang Tian and quietly climbed over the wall. Tang Tian glanced at it and a hint of admiration flashed in his eyes. He did not have a good impression of a flower vase. A brainless flower vase was of no use to his plan. He had very little time, only 15 days. No matter how much he did in these 15 days, it was impossible for him to complete the entire plan. Mingyu stared at him for a long time and suddenly smiled. Angelina hugged her chest tightly, not knowing what to do. He did not believe that Zhou Xian was a fool. Night enveloped Fairy City. Although there were martial artists patrolling the city, compared to the guards outside the city, it was much looser. After all, this was the most flourishing city in Fairy City, where countless of rich merchants and influential people gathered. Ba Fu had someone backing him up, so he did not dare to be reckless. This mysterious lady made him cautious. For her to be able to sense his approach, either she was stronger than Zhou Xian, or she had trained in a special martial technique. If not for his nimble and careful movements, he would have been knocked down by her. Tang Tian commented indifferently, then turned and left. Angelina's face became even redder. She hissed twice but did not make a sound and turned around. He wants to help me take off my skirt? That's so embarrassing. But she bit her lips and did her best not to make a sound. And that sword was very special. Turn around. Tang Tian's voice did not have any warmth. That's right. Another deep and resounding voice came out. A tall and sturdy man appeared on the stairs. Angelina came out. She had changed into an ordinary commoner's clothes. Tang Tian frowned. The coarse cloth clothes on her body could not hide her beauty. Especially her exquisite and smooth skin under the coarse cloth, it gave off an even more enchanting beauty. No matter what you do, money is always the most important factor. She looked at Tang Tian. Seeing that Tang Tian did not object, she gathered her courage and walked towards the entrance of the alley. After walking a few steps, she could not help but turn her head to look. Seeing that Tang Tian was following behind her, she heaved a sigh of relief. Angelina was careful not to make any noise. She took down the clothes that were hanging on the wall, looked around and ran to a corner to change. She would not let the other party see her. She was after all a girl that was not even 20 years old. To think of avoiding Tang Tian's gaze was completely instinctive. The old man carefully looked at Angelina, his face revealing a look of joy, and said softly, "Quickly come in." Even though he had the title of the #1 martial artist, but he was very clear in Fairy City, there were only 5 martial artists that could defeat him. These martial artists were all hidden in the inner courtyards of the big families, and unless it was a life or death situation, they would definitely not appear. To incur the wrath of the masses, Master Zhou Xian would be the first to kill him. Creak, the wooden door slowly opened, revealing a face full of wrinkles. The rest of the plan required Angelina herself to complete. A pure flower vase in such a whirlpool would definitely be torn to pieces. Destined to fail, there was no need to start at all. She was flustered. An extremely minute explosion sound came out, but the ground in front of Angelina suddenly exploded without any warning, raising a cloud of dust, enveloping Angelina, who was caught off guard. Angelina was able to become the 3rd successor of Andromeda constellation, not because of her face. She took a deep breath and her expression became calm again. The other party did not even warn her and directly knocked her out. Such a violent attitude revealed a lot of information. At least the other party was not sent by her father to save her. About 700 m away from Mingyu in the dense foliage, Tang Tian, whose entire body was wrapped in flames, stood there silently like a spirit, quietly watching Mingyu unleash her sword. Suddenly, her vision darkened, a black figure appeared in front of her. Just that. Can't you be more gentle? She used both hands to touch her back. The buttons of her dress were at the back. Thin and tough ribbons, tied into complicated knots, threaded through the buttons. To make the dress even more fluffy and three-dimensional, there were many flexible and tough ribbons at the bottom of the dress, making it extremely heavy. If he wanted to wear it without it falling off, he had to tie it very tightly. Usually she would ask the servants to help her put it on and untie it, but at the moment, after touching her back for half a day, she did not expect the ribbons to be in a mess. The ribbons were woven from the silk of the multicolored light silkworm, and were extremely tough and hard to cut. I'll go and change. These people represented the various families of Andromeda constellation, and even the master of Andromeda constellation, Asda, was extremely apprehensive, and the current Zhou Xian was the same. Angelina walked to the door. She looked at Tang Tian. Seeing that Tang Tian did not have any intention to speak, she clenched her teeth and knocked on the door. Angelina did not react at the start, but very quickly she understood Tang Tian's intention. This Mr. saved me. Angelina sensed the old man's suspicions and bowed. My father once told me if I were to meet with any danger, I should come to your organization for help. Angelina immediately entered the door. He quietly stood at the top of the wall, but coincidentally placed his body in the shadow cast by the eaves, and from there he could see the entire alley. The things he knew were far more than him, and at times he envied the other him for his naivety and carefree nature. That ability to not put anything in his heart was probably comparable to the strongest unique martial techniques. He actually did not sense it at all. If it was any other time, he would be somewhat curious about such a strong and special lady, and might even spar with her. Mingyu waited for a long time, but the carriage did not have any movements. Her face changed. She suddenly flicked her wrist. The sword light was like snow. The carriage suddenly split into two, but the bottom of the carriage was empty. An old voice came out from inside. He never thought that in such a desolate place like Andromeda constellation, there would actually be such a flourishing place. And the wealth of Andromeda City was out of his expectations. He was not that crazy young lad, who did not know anything. In the flourishing street in front of him, he could see an astonishing amount of money flowing. Until now, Angelina's performance had satisfied him. Needless to say, Angelina knew that he was not happy with her wasting time. She blushed and explained, I can't untie the ribbon on my back. Tang Tian expressionlessly kept his rapier, and the back of Angelina's dress from top to bottom was split into two. Untie the buttons on her dress? He had never learned such a thing before. That's great. Sigh. Wang Lin organization was located on the east side of West Water Street. The main door was hidden under an ancient tree, green stone walls, elmwood door. It was extremely simple, completely different from the colorful and gold-painted courtyards they had seen before. If not for the wooden sign hanging on the door with the words, Wang Lin organization written on it, the two of them would definitely not have noticed this shop. She noticed the clothes hanging in the air at the side of the alley, and her eyes lit up. Her clothes were too eye-catching and she had to disguise herself. Her completely exposed back could be seen. Her figure was extremely good. Her skin was especially exquisite, smooth and glossy, and a blush spread across her snow-white body. Angelina dared to guarantee that she had never seen such a person before, but at the moment she could not retreat. My father asked me to come here to ask for help. Look at the reality, Angelina. At night, West Water Street was ablaze with lights, all sorts of tall buildings and pavilions, stacked layer upon layer. Every inch of land was a work of heaven, carvings of dragons and phoenixes, flowers and plants, extremely luxurious. Looking at the shops, one could not see the end, only to see the lights like stars facing the water, people shuttling back and forth, bustling with activity. Angelina looked around, her eyes lit up. This is the lower street alley, let's go there. The shape of the buttocks is not bad. She had met a powerful opponent to be able to sneak under Zhou Xian's eyes. He was strong and daring. She did not expect Andromeda constellation to be filled with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. She was suddenly looking forward to this trip to Andromeda constellation. Her body froze. You better find out later. Chapter 360. If Zhou Xian succeeded. the hoarse and cold voice, was like a basin of ice water, drenching her from head to toe. Angelina woke up. She bit her lips tightly and did not say a word. The rapier in Tang Tian's hand disappeared again. Angelina muttered to herself, her eyes revealing a look of fear. Angelina was shocked. She flew forward and supported Noelle, who was on the verge of falling. She turned angrily and screamed, "Why did you do this?" Tang Tian was surprised. Angelina's quick thinking surprised him. As for the matter, he had long guessed it correctly, other than the details that he did not know. The second question is Asdar alive or dead? Tang Tian threw out his second question. Xiu. Fierce Tiger's body changed again, guarding the door tightly. Angelina's eyes sparkled, her beautiful face shining with intelligence, her face revealing a look of excitement. Noelle's face changed, his eyes revealing a look of shock. He had been in the army for a long time, and had a much deeper understanding of war than Angelina. He knew if this matter was to affect him deeply, it could even change the situation of the world. I need to clarify a few questions. Why is it ta done? Tang Tian asked straightforwardly. The soundless roar went straight into Tang Tian's ears, causing his eardrums to tremble. The cold and sharp sword tip was pressed against her throat, causing her body to freeze. Suddenly the torrential attacks disappeared. On their faces they were overwhelmed with shock. The low whistling sound enveloped Tang Tian. Noelle's grab was simple and unadorned, but it gave off a feeling that it could not be avoided. Noelle's face congealed. Yes, we have always been discussing about this question. Before we came there was actually a rebellion in the army, but Master dealt with it in time and the rebels were all eliminated. We still do not know the reason, but the information that we have obtained is, the second successor Kylie and her family, and the great clan elder as well as the Master's bodyguard Ba Fu participated in this matter. Noelle looked at Tang Tian in front of him, his face full of admiration as though he did not care about his own injuries. He had been in the army for a long time and getting injured was a common occurrence. He was long used to it and this injury to him was almost non-existent. Angelina's mouth was also wide open and looked at Tang Tian in a daze. Between the shadows of his fists and his figure, the tiger form changed again. His right palm turned from real to illusory, and all the power was concentrated on his left fist. Her voice stopped abruptly. Noelle grinned and his eyes suddenly became fierce. It seems that my friend is not giving me face. Then don't blame me for being rude. Good skills. He praised in a deep voice, his expression solemn. His right palm didn't change its direction, but his body's posture changed, like a tiger pouncing on its prey. The most amazing thing was that among the afterimages he created, there was a brightly colored tiger about to pounce. Tang Tian's mind did not fluctuate in the slightest. His eyes turned cold and the hand holding the sword did not move an inch. Half of the sword's tip seemed to suddenly disappear, leaving only half of the sword's blade. He was already regretting his actions. He wanted to put some distance between them and stop them. Noelle took a step forward and rushed to the front of Tang Tian. Opening up his 5 fingers, he grabbed towards Tang Tian like a cattail leaf fan. What replied him was a cold sentence. Noelle's body went numb, but the sword tip gently swept past his body. He only felt his entire body becoming light, and the sinister true power in his body was swept away. Armies did not have martial artists that used rapiers, but there were many in the fairy palace. The ones that used rapiers the most were the palace swordsmen. For the swordsmen that walked in the palace, the rapier's decorative nature greatly exceeded its practical use. Did they sell the entire Andromeda constellation? But to be able to think of it so quickly, it seemed that Angelina was not only beautiful. Angelina was anxious. She wanted to speak but she shut her mouth. She was also filled with curiosity towards the mysterious and powerful swordsman. Furthermore, the things that happened on the road surfaced in her mind. She chose to shut her mouth. The arched rapier accurately struck the tiger's head. Bang! The tiger's head exploded. Noelle groaned and his tall and sturdy body swayed. A wave of extremely sinister energy followed the rapier and drilled into his meridians. Tang Tian did not care about Noelle's guard against him. He did not speak any nonsense. To him, time was more important than anything else. He did not have the time to waste on meaningless probing. Seeing that Angelina was safe, Noelle heaved a sigh of relief. He had received the master's orders to travel through the night, but he did not expect that he would be too late, causing him to be extremely anxious. If anything happened to Angelina, then he would not be able to redeem himself even if he died 10,000 times. Zhou Xian is one of the successors of the Honorable Martial Alliance. To him, the most important thing now is to be able to raise his position. And now that the Honorable Martial Alliance is in conflict with the Leo constellation, it is almost like a war. If that is the case, Zhou Xian needs merits. Angelina muttered to herself. She seemed to have caught onto a faintly discernible thread, and continued to comb through it. Ordinary small merits have no meaning to Zhou Xian. And to be able to make him run to Andromeda constellation at this time, it must be a huge scheme. And his first target is father. Wait, I got it. The rapier in Tang Tian's hand disappeared. Noel shuddered and said anxiously, "We need to immediately inform Master." He had been in the army for a long time and his style of doing things was straightforward. The praise he had for Tang Tian was from the bottom of his heart. In the army there was only one person that he was convinced of, and that was the commander. Noel, who was about to run to report the news, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He had no choice but to be on the defensive. What conditions did the great clan Alderan Kylie give? Noel's body turned sluggish, his palm was in pain, and the cold sword concept drilled into his palm. His face changed, all the hairs on his body stood. Without thinking, his left hand formed a fist and struck towards Tang Tian's lower body. "I have 2 questions. A hoarse and cold voice suddenly came out. Noel heaved a sigh of relief and could not help but praise, "Friend, good skills." Angelina's tensed-up state of mind finally relaxed. Noel was her father's #1 fierce general. His strength was not inferior to Ba Fu. The reason why Noel was not famous was because he had always been in the army and had never displayed his strength outside. Noel heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like the opponent did not have the intention to take his life. He was about to speak, but suddenly the true power that was drilled into his body suddenly activated, his face turned white, his throat tasted sweet, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Friend, we need to get straight to the point." Noel was rough but meticulous, although up till now Tang Tian's identity was a complete mystery to them. But there was one thing without a doubt, the mysterious and powerful swordsman. Saving Angelina was definitely not a coincidence. The sound of his palm being pierced was concentrated like rain. The goddamn swordsman, the speed of his sword, was far beyond his imagination. Noel felt as though his arms were being pierced into a hornet's nest. The bricks beneath his feet were continuously breaking. It was not that the rapier was not powerful, but the sissies were useless. Tang Tian used the rapier as a whip, his elbow bent outwards and fiercely pulled out. "Speak," Noel said generously. The opponent's background was mysterious. Maybe he had other sources of information. The light aura in Noel's eyes exploded. The opponent had just unleashed his sword stance, and he could feel an extremely sharp and cold sword concept piercing through his eyebrows. Noel wanted to expel the strange true power out of his meridians, but his dense true power was actually unable to produce any effect on the fine strand of true power. The strand of true power was extremely sinister. As long as there was a gap, it would drill in. But Tang Tian did not have the intention to stop. Noel knew he had messed up. He took a deep breath and said, "Friend, I do not have any ill intentions." Noel's gaze once again landed on Tang Tian and said, "Friend, please show me your true face." The rapier effortlessly pierced through the palm wind, right on the forehead of the gorgeous tiger. Noel and Angelina were startled by Tang Tian's words. Angelina suddenly woke up. That's right, she had actually neglected the Honorable Martial Alliance Zhou Xian's involvement. There must be a reason. With Zhou Xian's position, ordinary benefits were definitely not enough for him to make a move. "Uncle Noel." Angelina was pleasantly surprised. Tang Tian's body suddenly arched. His right palm that was in front of his chest had an additional rapier, the sword tip pointing upwards. She was extremely clear on the happenings in the palace and had personally experienced it. She dared to confirm that Noel's words were completely correct. Tang Tian was completely oblivious. The sharp piercing sound was completely different from the gentleness before. "Uncle Noel." Even with the black flame mask, Noel could still feel the biting cold light in the eyes behind the mask, filled with danger and aggressiveness. Noel felt that he had nothing better to do, to actually find trouble with such a person. First, what is Zhou Xian's goal? In the past, Noel had always looked down on the court swordsmen. He thought that they were flashy but had no substance and were a bunch of sissies. As for those famous court swordsmen, they were all defeated by him in just a few moves. Noel smiled at her. My little princess, don't worry, Master has already received the news. I never thought that I would be too late. Luckily you're fine, that way I won't be chopped up by them. Of course Noel would not believe it so easily, but he was not stupid enough to retort. Seems like we have a common enemy. I have just arrived in Fairy City and do not understand the situation, friend. Do you have any suggestions? My goal is Zhou Xian. Tang Tian found a good reason for himself. If Angelina knew of Tang Tian's thoughts, she would definitely be ashamed to death. An almost undetectable hissing sound, the rapier's front half was vibrating at an astonishing frequency. At the same time it disappeared, it released a sound like a poisonous snake hissing, the dangerous and sinister qi, piercing straight into people's hearts. If not, you would already be dead. The true power was as fine as a hair, but it was extremely sinister and dangerous. After entering his meridians, it actually followed his meridians and flowed in reverse. The breathtaking tiger roar sounded out again. Noel's left fist had a multicolored tiger head enveloping his fist. It was glaring angrily, its mouth opened wide as though it was about to devour someone. And its body was faintly discernible in between Noel's figure. The hazy tiger body, its movements, was filled with astonishing explosive power. Angelina said hatefully, if not for the Honorable Martial Alliance's interference, they would not dare to do so. But it is obvious that the Honorable Martial Alliance has given them confidence. I can save you and I can kill you. Father is the commander of the Plateau Army. The army is stationed at the Immortal Hunter Stargate, and from there we can enter Orion Constellation. Orion Constellation is Lion King Lei Ang's firm ally, and is behind Leo Constellation. Master once saved Brother Jinzhen's life. Brother Jinzhen is the first successor of Orion Constellation, and is the current master of Orion Constellation's youngest son, and is deeply doted on. The Honorable Martial Alliance definitely wants to use this point. I never thought that such a secret matter, the Honorable Martial Alliance would find out about it. That's right, Kylin also knows about it. That must be it. First secretly control Andromeda Constellation, then slowly infiltrate into Orion Constellation, and bury a nail behind Leo Constellation, and at the most crucial moment, give a fatal blow. That you're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.